In the last 5 years, I've went from $0 to a senior software engineer who made over $700,000 in his career. In the last 3 years, I've documented all the lessons that I've learned along the way. This video contains my best and most effective videos to help you become a high-paying remote software engineer in the current market. It's a long video, but if you go through it, you'll walk away with 5 years of the most important lessons that I have to offer. And I'm giving it to you completely for free. Let's begin. The first step before we start, we need to break some of your limiting beliefs and some of your fears. Is it too late to become a software engineer? Does this job have any future now that AI is here? And how much money can you still make in tech? While everyone else is panicking, you Bender will find the hidden gems. I've spent years in the trenches of the tech industry. And let me tell you something, most software engineers, they don't understand the job market. I'm gonna share my honest thoughts on where the software engineering market is, both the challenges and where the real opportunity is, so you can get ahead. This video will have two parts. In the first part, I'm gonna tell you what is wrong and how we got here. And in the second part, I'm gonna tell you where the real opportunity is to land high-paying tech jobs. It's a brutal time to find a job as a software engineer, especially for those of you who have like 0 to 3 years of experience, so like fresh graduates to junior developers. Especially difficult because there's just too many of you guys. You have too much competition. The golden era of tech was around the 2010s, like that decade. There was an explosive growth, very easy barrier to entry. There was a huge shortage of software engineers. Companies were begging engineers to join them. Like you could learn how to code in 3 months, learn some HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and you can land a job. Now it's very difficult to replicate this today because the market has reached saturation, it has normalized, it's more similar to other jobs now. I graduated right at the end of that golden era. It was 2019 and I was trying to apply for a job right before I graduated. I applied to over 100 jobs and I could barely land a single interview. I only got a few interviews and I just secured one position at the end of this. So the barrier to entry to the tech market has actually been gradually increasing. It's not just those past 2 years, it has been happening for the past 5 years. In 2022, we entered an economic recession. So companies started to cut costs. And what is the biggest cost for a company? Is their engineers, the salary they pay to engineers. So they started laying off a huge amount of engineers. And all of a sudden, from one day to the other, you have like 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 new qualified software engineers who are in the market searching for a job. So imagine if you are entering this market searching for a job and you have 100,000 people who all of a sudden just appeared in the market who are also looking for a job. It basically means that your competition has increased. Your chances of landing the job has decreased because the amount of competition has increased. The other thing that companies are doing to cut off costs is to outsource their development to teams in India, in Pakistan, in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, because those developers are a lot cheaper. So they can hire more developers at a fraction of the cost that it would take to hire developers in America. And on top of all of this, there is a third unknown variable that we have in this market today is AI. We still don't know how AI is going to shape the market and what impact it's going to have exactly. So right now, we live in tough times, but this story has a happy ending. There's a quote that I like. Hard times create strong engineers, and strong engineers create good times. The first thing that you have to know, Codebenders, is that companies are still hiring today. Many tech giants and startups are hiring engineers every single day. Today, even literally, there has been hundreds of engineers who have been hired exactly today, the day you're watching this video. There is 4.3 million software engineers in the US. Most of them are making over $100,000 a year. Some are making $200,000 a year. Some are making $300,000 a year and more. Why couldn't you be one of them? Companies are still raising millions of dollars. Every week you hear about a new startup that raised like 10, 20 to $50 million. What do you think they do with this money? Like what are the costs for a company? Their offices, yeah, that costs some money, but it's not that big. Servers cost some money, but it's usually not the main cost. Marketing is a decent cost, but then the biggest cost for a tech company building software is they need to hire talented people who can build that actual software. That means engineers. So when a company raises money, the primary thing they're going to do with this money most of the time is going to be hiring more people. So a good indicator in the market is if you see that a lot of companies are raising a lot of money because there's a lot of money that is injected in that market. So don't think that the tech market is dead. The demand is still very strong. It's just that the tech market has stabilized. It has normalized to a level that is more similar to other jobs. If you look at other jobs that have high paying careers, right? Like doctors, lawyers, and things like that, they have very difficult barrier to entry. It's very hard to become a doctor or a lawyer. You have to study for like a decade. You have to invest a lot of money in your education. It's highly competitive. Only a few people make it at the end. And then even if you make it at the end, only a few people make those high salaries. Compared to that, software engineering is a much better choice. You have extremely high salaries, good work-life balance, you can work on cool projects, you can shape the future of human society, you can build a startup, and you can work from anywhere in the world remotely. Truth number 2 that you need to know. AI hasn't replaced anyone yet. It's been 2-3 years since GPT-3 came out and ChatGPT and all that AI wave, and yet we haven't seen any software engineer laid off because of AI. And the same thing is true for a lot of other jobs. Right now, AI is enhancing productivity. It's not replacing any software engineers yet. There is a lot of new opportunities emerging in AI-related fields. AI startups are the ones who raise the highest amount of money, and they hire actively for software engineers. I don't know if AI is going to completely replace software engineers at the end of this decade. I cannot promise anything. The same way as I don't know if it's going to replace doctors, lawyers, teachers, artists, architects, and all the other jobs. No job is safe. The AI revolution is coming for every job. So what you have to think is, which job gives you the highest safety? Which job has the highest potential? And in which position do you want to be in the worst case scenario where the AI revolution comes in and just replaces everyone? Which is the spot that you want to be in? And in my opinion, the best shot that you have at becoming like future proof is you need to make a lot of money. You need to secure yourself, secure your finances, invest wisely. And then you need to build skills to be a problem solver, to adapt to any situation. I think software engineering is still the best bet to achieve that. So how do you survive in this new landscape? How do you succeed in the age of AI? It's not about working harder or even smarter. It's about understanding the new rules of the game. First, you have to focus on what you can control. It's not going to help you if you keep complaining and being dramatic and being negative all the time. Your best shot is to do something with what you have. The market is difficult, but there's ways to succeed. People get hired every day. It can be you. Number 2, specialize in high demand areas. AI, for example. You don't have to become a machine learning engineer or an AI researcher. You can become a regular software engineer, but who is enhanced with some extra AI skills that have AI features on top of it, like AI chatbots and a bunch of things like this. You're going to learn new tools like LangChain. You're going to learn AI architectures like RAG. You're going to learn how to use the different AI APIs and things like this. Cybersecurity is also an emerging field that has a huge amount of demand right now. Cloud engineering is another one that has a big demand. Number 3, you have to improve your skills. Coding, problem solving, system design. You need to become good as an engineer. There's no way around it. You need to build a lot of diverse projects, the ones that solve real problems, the ones that have a business use case to it. Number 4, you have to network effectively. In 2024, this is the best way to get an interview. Applying to hundreds or thousands of jobs is not the way anymore. You have to reach out to people directly, and that's how you can get interviews. And number 5, once you have an interview, prepare the maximum you can to crush it. Make every single shot count. Interviews come rarely, so you have to make every single shot count. The golden era of tech where you could just learn some minimal HTML, CSS and JavaScript in just a few months and land a high paying tech job is probably over. The barrier to entry is higher now, but the crazy salaries are still there. The amazing work-life balance is there. The cool projects are still there. The growth is still there. You can use it to support yourself, your family, you can travel, you can take your parents to Umrah, you can offer lots of gifts and just have a very good life. I would still recommend software engineering to my family members. It's challenging, but the same as is a lot of other, or I would say all other high-paying jobs. In my opinion, software engineering is still the best choice. After I posted this video, many junior developers complained, telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, that it's the end, AI will just kill all the jobs soon. And it's funny to see how experienced developers look at AI and what the capabilities are, and how more junior developers look at it. AI is changing the market. There is no denying in that. We're entering a new age. But there's 2 things that you can do. Either you believe that all the jobs are gonna die soon and there is no point of doing anything, and then you just go into manual labor until robots replace you ultimately, which might be longer. Or you continue on your path as a developer, you become real good, you make a lot of money, you save it. And in the worst case scenario, imagine that AI replaces us all in 5 years, which I don't think is going to happen. I think it's a very low likelihood. I think it's more realistic that it's going to happen over the course of 1 or 2 decades. But let's say it's 5 years. In 5 years with a salary of $100,000, that's $500,000 that you're going to make if your salary doesn't evolve at all. So if you stay at the minimum of $100,000. Of course, you're not going to save all of that money, but if you're smart, you can save a good chunk of it. And then even if you lose your job at that moment, at least you're going to have a safety net and there's still things that you can do to save yourself. And I'm going to show that later in the video. The other advantage is that as an engineer, you're going to see AI coming before everyone else and you can prepare for it. I knew about GPT-3 and I had played around with it before ChatGPT came out. So I knew what was coming, and that's only because I'm a developer. So I have knowledge about things that the average person doesn't have. In the age of AI, there is a new type of software engineer who is emerging. And in my opinion, this is the one who will survive this wave and make a huge amount of money.
Young Chok just read an article saying that most junior developer roles will disappear because of AI. He is panicking, he is not ready to be replaced. He feels depressed. What's the point of even trying anymore? But the last cut bender thinks differently. He sees a window of opportunity in AI, an opportunity to change his life and create generational wealth. As someone who has worked in the tech space for the past 5 years, I see the market in a very interesting state right now. It's like there is a combination of extreme opportunity because of AI, because the salaries in tech are extremely high, because the number of startups starting in the AI space, the number of jobs being created, the amount of money that you can make. This is on the upside. But on the downside, there is a huge amount of competition. There's an enormous amount of engineers who are in the market. And of course, there's the threat of AI replacing everyone. And you feel like it's like a switch that can happen down the line at any moment. And it's a very interesting combination of those two forces that are happening right now. And you are in the middle of all of this and you're trying to figure out how can you win. What you need to understand is that there is a narrow window of opportunity where AI is going to create more jobs before it starts replacing them. And that's because we are at the start of the AI revolution. At the start of any revolution, this is when people build generational wealth. Think about the internet revolution, think about crypto, and think about the fact that AI is going to be bigger than all of them combined. Right now, what I believe is that we're still early on the bell curve. We are at the spot where more money is available, more jobs are being created, people are earning a lot more. It's the most exciting time to be in. And this is what we're seeing. Look at the number of startups that have been created over just the past 3 months. Look at the number of jobs that have been opened in all the startups, right? Whenever a new company is created, it's new jobs that are being added to the market. Look at the amount of money that has been invested in AI startups. We're talking about billions of dollars in those companies. Incubators like YC and different startup incubators, they're all recruiting AI startups to join their cohorts. It's a very, very exciting time to be in. And naturally, it leads to a higher amount of jobs. It leads to a higher amount of money being poured in. It leads to those jobs being very highly paid because companies, they want to hire as big as possible. They want to attract the best talent. They want to give them all the conditions possible in order for them to win. Right? Because companies, they're all competing to get a bigger size of the pie. And it's this very interesting dynamic. However, this dynamic can only last for a certain amount of time. Because you can think about it a little bit like a gladiator arena, right? That's the way I always like to think about it. Imagine that you have 1,000 fighters in this gladiator arena who are all fighting. At the beginning, you have a lot of people. They can all grow and slowly they're kind of killing each other, but it takes a little bit of time. At the beginning, it still looks like there's a huge amount of people in the arena. But slowly over time, some of them are going to die. Some of them are going to disappear. Some of them are going to kill each other. Same way with companies, right? Some of them are going to continue to grow at the beginning. They're going to hire more people. They're going to get money. They're going to get investment. Some companies are going to die very early on. Others are going to die because of competitions. Others are going to be acquired because of other companies. And this process is going to continue. It's going to last a few years until the market reaches a stage where there's only a few companies left. It's like this gladiator arena. At first, start with 1,000 people, 1,000 fighters. They start killing each other. You're down to 500. Then you're down to 200, 100, then 50, then 10. And then it's at the end, it's like the top 2 or 3 who are like the ultimate warriors, who are the strongest. Like no one can defeat them. That's the equivalent in the market when you have like 2-3 companies that just dominate the industry and no one can compete with them anymore because they're too big, because they have killed everyone. They have acquired anyone that they needed who was a threat. They killed everyone else and that's it. It becomes nearly impossible to compete with them. The market reaches a saturation and that's when things start to go down. That's when the opportunities start to go down and new players like, well, you have missed the train. You're not going to become like a millionaire anymore. You're not going to have those huge opportunities that people early on had. That era is gone. This is the end of the window of opportunity, the opportunity that I'm talking about. This is when the bell curve reaches the tipping point. This is when opportunities are reduced and this is when is the equivalent of missing the train. That's it. It's going to be extremely hard to compete when you reach that stage. So ideally, you want to do everything during this window of opportunity. This is when you want to utilize it the best. In my opinion, there's really three things that you can do. One is you can build the most experience that you can build. You try to become an expert at something. You try to acquire the most amount of knowledge that you can acquire and the most amount of experience working in the tech space, but at the same time working with AI, understanding the different AIs that are coming up, understanding how to use it to your advantage to become more productive. So that's one element of it. The other element is you want to have a network, right? Because in the era of AI, this is going to become even more important. You already heard probably most of your life, you're like, oh, the importance of having a network. If you have a network, if you know people, you're going to have an easier time to find a job, to like get whatever opportunity that you need. If you know people, it's going to be easier for you. Well, in the era of AI, it's going to be even more true. Your network that you have is going to be an extremely powerful asset for you, an asset that's going to help you to stand out in the market. That can be people that you know one-on-one, and it can also be the personal brand that you build. So if you have a Twitter, a LinkedIn, if you're connected to many people, if you have even a YouTube channel, like whatever it is, but if you have a network of people that you know one-on-one, and if you have an online presence, that's going to be very big in the era of AI. And this is why I've created a private network of AI developers through the Codebender AI Bootcamp. It's exactly for that reason. I want to be connected to AI developer, ambitious people who want to use AI, build cool stuff, and just win in this AI revolution that is happening right now. And I'm recruiting people constantly. If you're serious about this, like only if you're serious, if you want to win in this market, if you want to learn how to build cool AI apps, if you want to learn about those technologies, if you want to be in a private network of developers helping each other, go to the link in the description, lastcodebender.com/bootcamp, sign up, and let's start building cool things. So those are the things that I recommend right now. Build experience, try to become an expert at something, and build your network. Try to know more people, try to build an online presence, be surrounded by good, smart, talented people, and this is how you're gonna succeed.
Now, I want you to understand how much money you can make in tech and how you can get to the $100,000 mark no matter where you are in the world.
Programmers just like you are making $100,000 per year. They're not smarter than you, they're not better coders than you. So what separates them from you? What you have to understand, Codebenders, is that success and money is a lot about just being at the right place, at the right time, and playing your moves correctly. It's kind of like you have a chessboard that is in front of you, and then you have pieces. Those pieces were given to you by God, and you're the player, and there's a game in front of you that you're supposed to win. The pieces that you have is the characteristics that you have, right? Is the country where you're at, like the location, the people that you know, the resources that you have access to, the knowledge that you have, the brain you have, the genetics, the body that you're born with. All of those things are the pieces that you have in your chess game. And your goal is to use those pieces in the most efficient, strategic manner to win the game. So if you want to get to the $100,000 mark, right, that's your objective. You need to start the game and you need to move the first piece. The first piece that you're going to move is, first of all, your location. You're going to look around you, and then you're going to see, is there anyone else that I know that I can see who is making $100,000? Is there any developer in my city, in my area who is making this? If there is, you're going to look them up, see what they do, check their journey and how they achieve that success. And if you can, talk to them, try to take them as a mentor. So then it's going to create a path for you. It's going to be the best move that you can take. If you notice that there isn't anyone, there's no one in your city, there's no one even in your country, then it means that the location where you're in most likely is not going to give you statistical likelihood of achieving this goal. So then you have two options. Either you physically have to relocate to somewhere else where you can achieve this goal, or you have to like digitally relocate by having a remote job essentially, or finding like ways to hustle online and make that income. But that's the very first piece that you have moved into the chessboard. The game has started now. Once you understand this, you need to then start moving the pieces in your board just non-stop, essentially. You never stop. You need to keep playing this game and keep moving forward. The next thing that you're going to do, for example, is resources, right? You need to understand how can you get to the skills that will allow you to make $100,000. And you need to see which coding course can you take, which resource you have access to, which people can you talk to, which teachers can you take. All those things are resources that you can use that are around you. That's the next move that you just made. And you keep moving forward until you inevitably reach the last step, which is the $100,000 job is going to be right in front of you. And the only thing you'll have to do is to apply to it. It's kind of like you launch your final attack at the end of the game. It's the final boss to defeat. So you're going to launch a frontal attack like everyone else does. You're going to apply to that job.
However, for us as code benders, we're a little smarter, right? We don't do things the conventional way like everyone else. So you're going to still apply like others do. That's standard. However, the thing that you're going to do on top of it is that you're also going to launch a side attack just to guarantee your victory. This means that after you apply for a job position, what you're going to do is you need to start to figure out a way to talk to the people at this company, right? Because if everyone applies through a job portal, you're the same as 1,000 different people who applied. However, if you figure out a way to talk to the people who are at this company, then their whole attention is on you now. You're not compared to the 1,000 different people who applied through the job portal, because you did this, so they have your resume on file, but then you also try to talk to them through LinkedIn, through email, through Twitter DMs, and they're right in front of you, they engage in a discussion, and they can look at you differently. So that's the way that you can stand out. It's the same as launching a frontal attack and then like some rear attacks as well, just to secure victory. And that is the mindset that I want you guys to adopt, to realize that your life is like this chessboard. God has given you some pieces and you need to trust his plan. He knows what he's doing. There is a reason why specifically you have the pieces that you have and you're supposed to use them in the most strategic way possible. Like that's your objective. This part is on you. Like pieces were given to you. There is some wisdom behind it and your job is to use them in the most efficient way that you can and secure the victory. So I want you to start moving the pieces of your chessboard now.
Congrats, you have completed the foundation module. Now you're ready to go into the next steps, get the skills to land a 6-figure job. In the next lessons, I'm going to show you which tech stack you should learn, and I'm going to give you a list of 10 project ideas that you should build to land interviews.
In this video, I'm going to give you a very clear, laser-focused, no BS roadmap to become a full stack developer in the era of AI. And I've also created a master Notion template with all those steps so that you can use that as a guide in your journey. You can download it through my newsletter, link is below. The first thing that you will need is the very basic foundation of how websites are rendered. It's HTML and CSS. You can think about HTML as a skeleton of a body and CSS as the skin and the clothes and the hair, basically the overall look. HTML is really the basic structure of a web page. So if I were to build a page with purely HTML, it would look something like this. So you see it's just like text, titles, images, and links, and that's it. CSS is what adds styles to your page. So if we took the previous web page that we had and we add a layer of CSS on it, it would look like this. So you see it's like the colors, the positioning, the animations, the overall look of the website. Those two languages are quite easy to learn. Actually, there's not much complexity in it. It's mostly like descriptive languages. Some people even argue whether it's real programming languages or not, because basically you're just describing the page that you want in a specific syntax that you need to learn. One good resource that I recommend to learn is Codecademy. What I like about them is that it's very interactive. As you're learning through different concepts, you're directly applying them. You directly code inside of your browser. It's super interactive. And you'll see that it's a resource that I keep recommending across different chapters of this video, but because it's a good one. Once you have learned the foundation of HTML and CSS, I would recommend you to build a little project. You can build a portfolio website for yourself, try to make it a little interesting, try to make it funny, but don't spend too much time on it. Legit, maybe 1 or 2 days is enough. Now we're moving to the next step of our roadmap. It's where you will learn your first programming language, JavaScript. If you're creating a character and HTML is like the skeleton and CSS is like the skin and the clothes, then JavaScript is the muscles and the nerves. It's what makes the body move, what it makes it react and interact with others. JavaScript is the most popular language on planet Earth right now. It's extremely powerful. It has a very wide ecosystem of tools and frameworks and libraries. It's super versatile. You can use it on the front end, you can use it on the back end, on web and on mobile. You can handle complex tasks. It's a very, very powerful language and it's the best language in my opinion for beginners to learn. In terms of resources, Codecademy has an excellent introductory course to JavaScript. That's the one that I recommend you do. After that, I want you to build a project. You can build a little game, for example, like a Pong game. In terms of time, it's gonna take you from a few weeks to a month. It depends on your level, on prior experience and your affinity with that language. But yeah, I would say like a month. In terms of time it takes to learn, obviously it depends on how much time you're willing to put in every week. It depends on your prior experience, your affinity with the language. I would say on average it takes from a few weeks to a month to be able to learn it. JavaScript is powerful, but by itself, it's actually not that powerful. It's truly powerful because of its ecosystem. And one of the most important libraries you need to learn is React. If we take the previous example where HTML is the skeleton and then CSS the skin and JavaScript is like the muscles and the nerves, React is like an exoskeleton. It allows you to empower all the moves that you're doing, and it allows you to do things that will be extremely difficult without it. But in programming words, what it allows you to do is to create a single page application. So it's applications that have building blocks called components that are reused across the full app. You have a dynamic state, you have pages, it's super interactive. It's a very dynamic application. It will really help you improve your speed and productivity. Again, for the resource, Codecademy is an extremely good one, but I would also recommend you reading the official React docs. It's pretty well written and it's a resource that you're going to use just throughout your journey. In terms of projects, I've actually left a lot of projects on the Notion guide, but one thing that you can do is you can build a chatbot, you can build a startup idea generator, you can build a gift idea generator, and a lot more ideas you can just check out on the doc. And for the time that you need to learn it, I would say if you have mastered JavaScript, you took the time to learn it, you did like the Codecademy course, I think a week or 2 weeks will be enough to learn JavaScript and start working on your first projects. Step 4, learn how the internet works. And you might be asking like, wait, I know how the internet works. I use it every day to go on TikTok. Bro, this is not what I mean. I mean truly learning how internet works. And what I mean by that is when you open a web page, what happens behind the scenes? What is HTTP? What is DNS? What is SSL? What are all of those terms and concepts? And if you have no idea what that means, it's alright. I'm gonna explain you in very simple terms. You can think about the internet as a mailing system, where the IP is your home address. The DNS is like that friendly postman who knows where everyone lives. HTTP is the standard delivery protocol. HTTPS is just a secured version of that delivery protocol. CORS is the regulations that determine who can send packages. And SSL is like the seal that ensures that no one else reads your mail. That's it. Again, I've linked a few videos in the Notion guide so you can familiar with it, but one resource that I will recommend you is to check the Mozilla web docs. It's very complete, it has a lot of information about all those concepts that I mentioned. In terms of time, it won't take long to learn, maybe like a day or two, because you don't want to go too deep into it, you just want to learn the concepts, just read about it, and then you know what it is. Step 5, understand the command line. If you want to become a full stack developer, you have to master your terminal. It's a super powerful tool. It's like a Swiss Army knife. You can run apps, you can install dependencies, you can debug, you can edit files, you can do so many things. If you go really far in it, you could legit not even need to use your mouse anymore. You can do everything in your keyboard, run any commands that you need. But you don't need to go that advanced, just learning the basics is enough. For the resource, just use Codecademy. Man, at this stage, they should sponsor this video. Like I gave them all this free marketing. But the reality is that it's a lot easier to just use one resource for your full journey, and especially a good one like this one that is super interactive. Just makes things a lot easier. Once you have learned those basic commands, go on cmdchallenge.com. It's like a little game that will allow you to practice those commands that you learned. And in terms of time to dedicate to this, I would say just a few days. Maybe 2-3 days is enough to learn the basic commands. And then as you go, you're gonna keep learning new things. Next step is a super important one. It's Git and GitHub. Git is a system that allows you to track changes in your files, to collaborate together with other engineers, to see previous versions of your file, to roll back, and a ton of different functionalities that it has. GitHub is a website that basically uses Git on the web, so it makes all those features accessible through an interface where you can store your code. It's the most popular website to store code and to work collaboratively with other people. So it's extremely important if you wanna go and work in a company or work with others. It's as important as air for a human being. Git and GitHub is the equivalent for a developer. I remember, man, what I used to do in the past before I knew Git and GitHub, if there was like an assignment or something, like a group assignment, and I had to share some code, I would share it on Google Drive. And it was so messy, man. Like we were 4 different guys working on a project together. We would all share our code on Google Drive. We would all have to compile the code together, somehow sit next to each other, say like, oh, I changed this code, this line, and then I did a change in this line. And it would be such a mess. It would spend hours and hours just trying to merge code together. GitHub makes it extremely easy. You can very easily see changes and merge code together. It's specifically meant for that. For the resource to learn it, Codecademy, you already know that. For the project, literally take the apps that you build in the previous steps and push them to GitHub. That's the best thing you can do to learn. In terms of time, I would spend just a few days to learn those basics, because you have to understand, Git is something you're going to be using every day. So you'll have plenty of time to practice more. It's enough for the step to just get the basic foundations and then you move to the next step. Step 7, learn backend development. People throw around a lot of languages like Python, Ruby, PHP, C++, Java. Forget about all of them and focus only on Node.js. If HTML is the skeleton, CSS is the skin, JavaScript are the muscles, React is the exoskeleton, then Node.js is the brain. It's what handles all the complex logic of your app. And it's hidden. You cannot see the brain. It's in the backend. Node.js is a backend JavaScript runtime environment that allows you to run JavaScript on the server, which normally you cannot do, right? Because JavaScript can only be run on the browser, but Node.js allows you to do it on the server. The advantage is that you don't need to learn a new language. It's all JavaScript, which means that everything you learn in JavaScript, you can still apply to Node.js. And it's super popular. A lot of companies use it. In my opinion, it's the go-to if you want to learn full stack development. For the resource, you're going to do the Node.js course on Codecademy. And then for the project, you can literally take any of the projects you did in the past and try to add the backend to it. In terms of time, it's going to take you a week or a few weeks, depending on how intensely you do it. Once you have learned that, it's time to learn the next piece that you need, which is the databases. There are two popular types of databases. There are SQL databases and there are NoSQL databases. You want to learn the difference between them two and when to use one over the other. To make it very simple for you, if your data is structured and there's relations between the data, then you want to use a SQL database like PostgreSQL. So for example, let's say you're tasked to organize a wedding and you have a list of guests, you have a list of their meal preferences, and then you have seats where they're assigned to across different tables in the wedding hall. This is structured data because each guest is related to a meal and is related to a seat. So that's why you want to use SQL for this. Now, on the other hand, if you want to plan a surprise party for your best friend, you don't know exactly which are the guests that are going to come and you don't know what they will bring. So you have uncertainty. And because of that reason, it's best to use NoSQL, a database like MongoDB, for example. And the advantage of a structure like that is that it's going to be a lot more flexible for the future as you scale and handle like more uncertainty. Learning both of those databases is going to take some time. I usually recommend learning only one, and I recommend the first one, PostgreSQL. Because it's very powerful. A lot of tech companies use it. That's what I use too also at my company. For the resource, you're going to do the Codecademy PostgreSQL course. For the project, it's very interesting now because you know front end, back end, and you just learned about databases, so you can do full stack projects, which means that you can add those back end functionalities to whatever app that you have built before. You can add a user authentication, sign in, create user profiles, store their data, save their preferences, and a lot of those things. This is going to be very exciting for you. In terms of time, again, dedicate a week or a little bit more depending on how involved you are. And now we're moving to the most exciting step in my mind. It's step 9, AI integration. This is a step that most likely all the other roadmaps that you're looking at, they don't have it because it's so new and you cannot not learn this. Bro, it's like refusing to become a Super Saiyan when you could become one. Doesn't make any sense. You have to learn different AI APIs like OpenAI, that's the creators of ChatGPT. They're the most famous ones. I would start with them and I would learn prompt engineering. This is also super important, know how to prompt properly. The main resource for this, in my opinion, is the OpenAI documentation because since it's so new, there aren't many very good courses that have been built on this. And right now, the OpenAI documentation is where you'll find the bulk of the information. So that's where I would recommend you checking first. But there is still one course that I was able to find and it has step-by-step instructions on how to build an AI application. I've linked it in the Notion guide so you can check that one out. As a project, now it's very interesting because you can build so many different projects. You can build a speech-to-code converter where you literally imagine an app where you say to the app, I want you to build a portfolio website for me, for example. And then the app, the same way as if you ask that to ChatGPT, is going to write the full code for you. It will transcribe your voice and turn it into the full code for the website you want. That's one project idea. Another idea is that you can build an Elon Musk chatbot. So it's a chatbot that has the personality of Elon Musk and you can interact with him. Then you can build a gift idea recommender. So you input the personality of the person you want to offer a gift to. It's going to suggest you a full list of personalized gifts for that person. And in terms of time to invest into this step, I would say after a few days or a week, you're going to be able to build AI applications. But bro, spend as much time as you need and as much time as you can to learn those things. There's no limit there. This is the only step where I say no limit. Invest as much time as you can. And after that, you can continue your journey. The codebender never stops learning. He never becomes obsolete because he's always on top of things. You can learn TypeScript, you can learn SCSS, you can learn Docker. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Obviously, AI, you're going to keep learning that because bro, right now there is a huge opportunity in the market through AI. Once you have gone through the steps in this video, you have an enormous potential to make a substantial amount of money and to change your life. Bro, don't let this opportunity slip. use the roadmap that I've created as a guide for you. You can use it throughout your entire journey. You can access it in my newsletter. You'll be able to download it there. It's going to be the first email you'll get. There's also a bonus step in it that I've written, and it's something that, in my opinion, the reason why so many people who learn to code give up is that bonus step that I've laid out. So I really recommend you check it out. It's something that most people don't do, so please do it. The advantage of that Notion document also is that I can update it a lot easier than updating this video. So as AI evolves and as the market evolves, I'll be able to update that document, so keep referencing that one, okay?
So we have just covered the standard developer roadmap. Once you're done with it, I'm gonna show you some more advanced tools that you can use to stand out as a new age software engineer. Just last week, 2 AI companies reached out to me to invite me for an interview. The salary range was around $190,000 a year as a base salary, and on top of it, there was a huge amount of equity in a startup that will most likely IPO within the next 2 years. There is a huge potential in this space, and in this video I'm gonna give you a complete roadmap on how to become an AI developer. And at the end I'm gonna give you a list of interesting project ideas that you can start building. In a market where most tech companies struggle, where we have seen huge layoffs, where hiring is massively reduced, you see that there are AI startups who are raising hundreds of millions of dollars and massively hiring. There is a huge amount of money that is being poured into AI right now, and there are a lot of opportunities to grab. And they're not just opportunities at companies, we also see solo developers who build AI apps within a few weeks or months, like an AI PDF chat app, and they're making over $10,000 a month from that app. We're gonna go over all of this in this video, but first I want to clarify something very important because a lot of people get this wrong. An AI developer is not an AI researcher. It's not a machine learning engineer. It's different. An AI developer is fundamentally a full stack engineer who uses AI APIs to build cool stuff. That's basically what it is. And these days we have APIs for everything. If you want to generate text, story, poetry, marketing copy, you can use the GPT models. If you want to generate images, posters, artwork, you can use the Dolly API. If you want to generate voice, like ultra realistic voice, you can use the 11 Labs API. If you want to generate video, you can use the open source Stable Diffusion models through Replicate or Hugging Face. And then OpenAI has the Sora model, which they have announced recently. And then you even have models that can generate code for you. So basically any medium that you can imagine, there is an AI that can generate it for you. And as an AI developer, all these capabilities are just tools at your disposal. So now let's get into the roadmap. I want you guys to get into a level where you can build an app like this one. It's an AI PDF chat app. This app was built by one solo developer and is currently making $60,000 per month, which is a very good salary. And if, let's say, you're not interested in building your own business, you want to go for a company, the skill set that this guy possesses, the sole developer who built this app, he can go and work for any company that he wants and he's gonna get an amazing offer with an amazing salary. So those skills are very powerful. First though, before we start talking about AI, you need to get the prerequisites. You need to learn how to build a basic app without any AI. That's why you need to learn about HTML, which is the skeleton of your app. Then you need to learn about CSS, which is the styling. It's what makes your app look pretty. Then you need to learn about JavaScript. This is what adds some dynamic elements to your app. After that, you're gonna learn about Next.js. And that's a JavaScript web framework that is super powerful. It's actually used by a lot of solo developers to build those AI projects that I was discussing. But also big companies use it. Companies like WhatsApp, like Netflix, like Apple. And this is also what I use at my company on a day-to-day basis. So it's a very powerful framework. After that, you're gonna need to learn some backend. So you're gonna learn Node.js, which is a JavaScript runtime. JavaScript can usually only be run on the browser, but using Node.js, you're able to run it on the server as well. It's very convenient. And the last thing here is the database. You're gonna learn PostgreSQL for that. Learning all of this is gonna take you between 3 months and 6 months, depending on how fast you are and especially how much time you're going to dedicate to this. A good resource that I recommend is Codecademy or Free Code Camp. Just pick either one of them, they're both good, but just stick with one. The second step is to learn the basics of AI. So you need to understand what are LLMs, how do they work, what are tokens, what is prompt engineering, how to optimize the output through prompts. This is something that a lot of developers overlook. They just want to jump into the APIs and start building projects quickly, but they don't get the basics right. And this means that they're going to reach a ceiling pretty fast and they're going to fall behind at some stage. But not you. You're different. You are a code bender. So you will not fall behind. You're going to get the edge by learning about those fundamentals. I've made a short video about this that's going to teach you all the essentials of how an LLM works in just 10 minutes. I'm going to link in the description.
I highly recommend you watch it. It's going to be very beneficial for you. I invite you to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more AI stuff like this and join the Codebender movement. The third step is to learn the AI APIs. This is my favorite part. This is when you're going to start building cool AI projects. You remember the APIs that we discussed earlier? This is when you're going to start using them. I recommend to start with the OpenAI GPT model. So it's just a text-to-text model. You give a text to the AI, it's going to give you a text back. Start with this, then move to the Dolly API. Dolly API is a text-to-image model. So you can request images to be generated and it's gonna be your first experience interacting with something other than text. Once you have done both of them, that's like the core OpenAI API, I recommend you go beyond OpenAI and look into Replicate and Hugging Face. You'll have models there with capabilities that OpenAI doesn't have and they can do very specific, interesting things. It's really a gold mine and not that many people are using them, so you can get the edge if you start using them. The fourth step, learn frameworks and tools to build powerful AI apps. And the main one here that I recommend is RAG. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is basically a process to take an outside knowledge base and add it to your AI on top of its own training dataset so that it can provide better results. It's basically what it is. I use this for a project I'm building. It's a children's book AI generator where users can just describe a child and describe the story that they want, and then the AI is going to generate the text and all the images. Is going to create a full book for that child. So I'm using RAG to create higher quality outputs for the books. So what's happening behind the scenes is whenever a user writes a query, so for example, the user asks for a story about the little boy who goes on an adventure in the jungle. What the app is going to do behind the scenes is going to send this request to a database that have a database of books. Those books are stored as embeddings, which is a vector representation of the data. The request to the user is going to come, hit that database, and it's going to be compared to all of the books that are available. The book that has the closest representation to this query that the user has made is going to be extracted and is going to be added into the prompt. So in my case, if I want a children's book story about a boy going on an adventure, the best book about the boy going on an adventure is going to be fed into the prompt, and then all of this is going to be sent to OpenAI to generate the story for the book. So I'm going to get much higher quality outputs than if I was not doing this. It's just basically a much better prompt that I can build. To learn this, you'll need to learn LangChain, which is a powerful framework to build AI apps. Then you'll need to learn embeddings, and then you'll need to learn vector databases. And just to explain this concept very quickly to you, I'm going to come back to that example of my children's book app. I had like a raw PDF file with a bunch of books. LangChain was used to break this down into small chunks and create embeddings from it. And embeddings are basically vector representations of that data, so that it's easier to store, it's easier to manipulate. And then I send all of this into a vector database. And a vector database is just a database that stores embeddings. That's all it is. Because regular databases like MySQL or PostgreSQL, they're not good to store embeddings. So a new type of database was invented specifically to store that data and to manipulate it and search through it. So that's basically what it is. This is a lot of information to learn, but in my opinion, if you want to make it easy on yourself, the best way to learn, the best way to digest all of that information is to just work on building projects. That's literally the best way. Instead of actually just spending days and weeks reading the theory, start work on projects, and when you hit roadblocks, that's the moment when you're gonna go into the theory, figure out exactly how to solve the problem that you have in front of you, and then move like this step by step. You hit the roadblock, you go find a solution, get yourself unstuck, go to the next step, and as soon as you're stuck, and you basically continue that cycle, and it's going to really consolidate the knowledge in your brain, and it's going to make all those concepts a lot more concrete for you. I promised at the beginning of the video that I'll give you a few project ideas, so here they are. Number one, I recommend the classical, which is building an AI chatbot. However, don't just build a boring chatbot with no personality. Take the personality of someone that you like, of someone that you want to chat with, like Elon Musk, Lex Friedman, Sam Altman, whoever it is, but just build a chatbot that is based on the personality. So you'll have to train it based on some data. This is a very good introduction AI project to build. Next project is an AI resume builder. So it's an app where a user can input basic information about them, and then the AI is going to generate an optimized resume with all the sections that it needs, with all the bullet points, all the right descriptions and everything. And you can also do a more advanced version where there is the possibility for a user to upload their current resume, and the AI is going to generate an improved version of it. Or you could also add a field where a user can input a link to their LinkedIn account, and based on that information you can directly generate an optimized resume for that user. And then the third idea is to build an app where you can upload screenshots of a website, and it's going to turn those screenshots into actual code. You're going to need to use the GPT Vision AI API for this. In this lesson, I want to give you 7 more project ideas that you can build to stand out and get interviews.
I built one AI app every week for 7 weeks. On week 1, I built Interview GPT. This is an app that helps you prepare for your technical interviews. And the way it works is that you just provide a URL of a job description. So for example, here I have this OpenAI software full stack developer position. I'm gonna copy the URL. I'm gonna go in the app. I'll paste it. I'm gonna select an interview type, like behavioral interview, for example. This is just an amount of money that you have to pay the AI. It's like fake money, because based on how much you're willing to pay the AI, the better the job it's gonna do, right? So if you pay a lot of money, it's gonna do a good job. If you pay just like $10 like I did now, it's not gonna do a great job. But this is just for the sake of this example. So I'm gonna upload my resume here. And the nice thing is that what it's gonna do now is it's gonna read the job description that you have provided. So the exact job that you wanna apply to is gonna scrape the description. It's gonna analyze your resume, read it fully, and then it's going to create a custom interview for you to help you prepare. So here it knows my name, it knows what I'm doing, and then it asks me some question. Can you tell me about the time where you had to work closely with a team? And then I say like, I don't know. And then it's gonna, basically it's using emojis. Since I said that I'm only willing to pay $10, it's not really taking me seriously. I can start it again just to show you how a lead code style question looks like. With a higher amount. Here you see this is a lead code style question, so it's actually providing like code examples. That's also something that I implemented. And then I can say something like, can you give me a hint in like JavaScript, for example? And you're gonna see that it's gonna create like blocks of code. So that's kind of like an AI agent that helps you prepare and pass your technical interviews. It's built with Next.js. You're gonna see that this is the tech stack that I use for all my projects. Next.js is like the default framework I use. Then I use the GPT-4 API. Then I use Puppeteer to scrape the website and GPT-4 as the AI model. So we take the text of the website, we take the text of the resume, we send all of that to GPT-4, and then that's what creates the interview essentially. Now the next week I built Super Viral. This is an app that helps you generate viral YouTube video ideas for like creators. So here basically I open the app and I have two areas on my screen. One area is like a chat, and the other area you see it's gonna preview like the results. So for example, here it's asking what is your video idea, and what I want to do is learning how to code by building fun AI projects. That's like a video that I want to make. Then it's asking me, okay, what is your channel about? I have a channel about teaching AI. And then like, what is the style of video that you want to make? And let's go crazy here. I'm gonna say Mr. Beast style. Now it should suggest me 10 titles. All right, so it's going through here. I'm gonna select one of them. So for example, this one. Once you have selected the title, what it's going to do is that it's going to try to generate a thumbnail for you. So here it first of all describes like the idea that it has for the thumbnail. And then I say, like, it's asking me if I want to add anything based on this idea. And I'm going to say, just make the colors vibrant. There you have it. This is the thumbnail. It's asking me, is the thumbnail okay? I like it. I'm going to say yes. Otherwise, I could keep asking questions to improve it basically. And after this, it's going to start generating the script. So this is the script for the video. This app is built with Next.js as well, but I use different AI models for this one. I used the Claude 3 API to generate the ideas in the script, because I noticed that Claude is actually more creative than GPT, or at least for the use case that I was using it. So Claude is a model by Anthropic and GPT is the model by OpenAI. So each of them, they have like their own advantages. And then for the image, I used the Dolly 3 API. On week 3, I did something different. So this is an app where you can upload your resume, and then it's going to tell you the dollar value of your resume, so how much it's worth in dollars. If I do it now, it's gonna read the resume, load, and then it should show me the value. Yep, here it is. Then it's gonna tell you the key factors, like why does it think that your resume is worth that much, or like hypothetically the job that you could get, how much they would be willing to pay you. And then here it says a couple of improvements that you can do in order to earn more money. So it's kind of like a resume reviewer essentially, but just packaged in a more interesting way. This is also built with Next.js, but here I use the Mistral API to read the text of the resume and define the dollar value and format all of this. The AI was essentially returning an HTML structure that I defined, where I wanted to have like a title, which is the dollar value, and then I had some specific tags for like the key factors and the improvement, and then I could just render it nicely on the page. This project actually posted on LinkedIn and I got quite a bit of engagement. You see here like 200 something likes and just a bunch of comments. The interesting thing as well is that this project, someone saw it through LinkedIn and then they shared it on reactexamples.com, and then the project was there. This gave me just a little bit of extra traffic. So if I show you the analytics right now, let me find the resume worth. It's this project here. I'm gonna open it, go to analytics. We're not gonna see the whole analytics since the beginning because since I'm only on the free tier, the analytics are limited to just the past 30 days. But you can see like 261 page views. It was a lot more before the project died down a little bit. But you see here React examples is like the lead referrer for page views. And then you can see countries like India, United States, Brazil. By the way, guys, if you like these projects, subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be posting more of them. On week 4, I wanted to go with a completely different niche. Crypto was trending, so I wanted to build a project around it. And the idea was to build this app called Crypto Regrets. So you can specify an amount of money here and it's gonna tell you how much you would have made if you invested that amount in this specific crypto a year ago. So here, for example, if I had invested $1,000 in Bitcoin a year ago, I would have made $1,500. And the text here, this AI generated. So basically the AI adapts the text that it says based on the amount of money that you could have made. I invested in Polygon, for example, now it's negative, so it's something different, and so on and so forth. Here I used Mistral for the AI model, and I found that NVIDIA actually provided it for free through their NVIDIA NIM API. So basically I'm just using the free credits that NVIDIA has. Like they give you 1,000 credits on an account that you create. That's how I can keep these projects for free essentially. And then in order to get the crypto values, I use the crypto API called CoinGecko. On week 5, I built a more complex project. This is actually the only project where I collaborate with someone else who's a student in my bootcamp as well. So you can upload the PDF, the AI is going to read it, and then it can answer questions that you ask about the PDF. I've also set up authentication here, so you click on sign in. I can sign in on my account. Then what I'm going to do is, just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to actually upload a Japanese PDF. So this, as you can see, this is like text, this is completely in Japanese, but the AI can read it, and not only can it read, it can answer questions about it. So if I'm going to say like, what is this PDF about? And here it's going to know. So this is a PDF that is a guide for this Japanese library. And then I can say like, when was it written? And then it's gonna know. And then something that I can do is I can actually ask questions about specific pages. So this is page 2, and I can say like, what is page 2 about? It's answering about page 2 in particular. For this app, the technologies that I used is Next.js again as the default like web framework. I use Clerk for the authentication. Clerk is really a game changer for authentication. You can set up authentication on any app in literally a matter of like minutes. Like maybe the first time you're gonna do it, it's gonna take you like an hour, 2 hours just to get familiar with. But then after that, in a few minutes, like I add authentication to any new app that I build now. It's very easy to use and I have a generous free tier that you can use on all your projects. Then I'm using the PDF.js library so that I can extract the text on the PDF that I upload on the client side. So I don't use any API for this, just on the client side I extract the text. And then I send all the text to Mistral, and Mistral AI is basically using that PDF text as the context, and then I can answer questions on it. The fun part about this project is that I actually noticed that a pretty famous creator signed up to use it. It's a creator called Mike Shake. You guys might be familiar with him. And just to prove you that this is not just a random person with the same name, but it's actually this exact creator, he follows me on Twitter, and I posted this project on Twitter. So he saw it, signed up, and tried it. I don't really know him personally. We just interacted like in a few tweets. And then he started following me when I was sharing some AI projects for creators. So that's basically how he signed up for it. On week 6, I also built a chat app, but here instead of chatting with your PDF, you can chat with any website. So you come here, it's a very simple UI. You have to just drop the URL of a website. I'm going to just take my personal website. I come here, I paste it, I click on submit, and then it's going to open the chat interface. Here again, actually you have to authenticate. I'm already authenticated, but I've set up like all the next apps I've done, I always added Clerk to have authentication. So here it just tells me that this is the website that I entered, and I can say like, what is this site about? And then it says this website is the bootcamp that teaches people how to code AI projects and get jobs, and it's led by Zaurbek Stark, which is me. Perfect. And then I can say like, what does it teach? And then it teaches how to build apps with Next.js, and yeah, perfect. This is exactly what it is. So you can essentially chat with any website like this. This is a Next.js project. Again, it uses Clerk for authentication. It uses Mistral for the AI model. And then I use the tool called Scraping End to scrape the content of the website. Originally, I was actually using Puppeteer, but I ran into some limitations once I deployed the project. I deployed with Vercel, and I just have like a free account, like the hobby tier account. And then I was running into limitations because it would take too long to process the extracting the text, like scraping the text of the website. So I had to use this third-party tool instead of using Puppeteer. By the way, in case you're curious about this background and how I made it, I just created this with Midjourney. So I asked Midjourney to generate like an anime-style illustration of a mountain and a man who's standing in front of it. And then I just added like a dark gradient opacity just to make it a little bit darker, just so that the text stands out on top of it. And the way I actually got this whole idea of using a background like this for this app was from that guy on Twitter who created a little tutorial on how to do it, because he did this for one of his projects and and he also showed how like Intercom is using it and just a couple of examples of different apps. So that's basically how I got the inspiration. He has his tutorials somewhere. Like if you scroll down on his page, you're gonna find the tutorial somewhere. After this, on week 7, I built a completely different project. This one is more visual. So here what you do is that you can enter an idea that you have, and then it's gonna visualize this as an illustration, like a beautiful, like minimalistic style illustration. So for example, if I say smart work beats hard work and I enter this, it's gonna load some illustration in the style of like visualize value. In case you're familiar with it, it's like a famous page on Twitter who does like interesting designs. The illustration appears here, and then if I click on it, it shows it like that. It's like hard work versus smart work, like a simple minimalistic style illustration. And then you can do a lot of different ones. This is another one to inspire people to continue working hard and not giving up. The text is a bit messed up, so I'll just try to generate it multiple times until I get a result that I'm satisfied with. But that's essentially what this app is, and the goal is to take those illustrations and then just share them on social media to like maybe build up a page or something like that. The tech stack for this app, you guys know it by now, there's no surprise. I use Next.js as the main framework, and then I use the Dolly API in order to generate those illustrations. I was actually thinking of fine-tuning a model, like a stable diffusion model, on the specific type of illustration that I wanted, but I just didn't have time because I was supposed to do this project in a week, but I just procrastinated, and I had like 1 day left to build it, and build it like on like end of Saturday, Sunday. So that's why I went to a simpler solution of just using an existing model, which is the Dolly 3 API. One thing though that I did do here is that I implemented rate limiting, because the thing is with images, they're more costly than regular like text generation, and I didn't want people to just keep using it and just burn all my credits. So I implemented a rate limiting where every user can do maximum 3 image generation per day. So for example, if I go here now and I say another one, this is going to be our 3rd one for today. It's going to generate an image, and if I try a 4th time, it's going to show an error now. So I can only generate 3 images per day. In order to do this, I used Upstash. So Upstash is a service that provides a Redis database, which can track all of the requests that you're making in your app, and you can limit it based on some criteria that you define, right? So you can say like 3 requests per day, or 3 requests every 24 hours. In my case, which is what I did. So it generated this, and then if I say something else, like again, like hard work, it's smart work. Well, actually, this is the opposite of what I said the first time. And you see here, there's an error message. It says, sorry, you can only generate 3 visuals per day. And then reach out to me on X if you want more. Now let's look more in depth into how you can build your first AI project, an AI chatbot. Building an AI app is actually a lot simpler than you think. In this video, Codebenders, we're gonna learn how to build this app. It's a simple AI chat app, and in my opinion, this is the best app to start your AI journey. The technology that we're going to use is Next.js. It's a super popular web framework used by a lot of companies. And then we're going to use the OpenAI API. This is the creators of ChatGPT. This is the most popular AI API that is available out there. To build an app like this, you first need a catchy idea, because we don't want to build just a boring AI chat app that has no personality. Be a little bit more original. Pick a character and make the chatbot based on that. You can pick Elon Musk, Lex Friedman, Alex Hormozi, David Goggins, Habib Nurmagomedov, Andrew Tate, Putin, Trump, Sam Altman, Einstein, Asim Al-Hakim, Mr. Beast, Mike Tyson, or even fictional characters like Goku, Naruto, Mikasa, Batman, The Last Codebender. I'm gonna obviously pick our hero, The Last Codebender. Next, you want to think about the architecture, and for a project like this, the architecture is very simple. It's basically 3 blocks. You have the front end, so that's all the visuals that you can see when you look at the app. Then that front end is going to make a request to the internal API built with Next.js. And the role of this API is just to add extra context to the prompt so that it's very specific to the character that we're building the chat with. And then from that internal API, we're going to make a call to an external API, and that's going to be OpenAI GPT model. And then that AI is going to respond, and that response is going to be sent back to the front end. Next, let's start building the app. So I like to think from a top-down approach. So I start at the top level of the app, and then I go deeper step by step to understand what's happening. And here we're going to start at the page level. That's the highest level. And you see that, so you have a bunch of HTML, you have the image here, which is the logo at the top. This is basically the header. And then we have a chat component. And the chat, basically like the name says, this is the main component of this app. So we're going to enter the chat. I'm going to see what's happening down there. And here you see again, you have this return and you have a couple of things happening. We have this render response function that is not defined yet. We're going to define it together. And then you have a form with an input. So the form is what you see at the bottom. This is where the user like sends a question to the Last Codebender. And the render response is most likely going to be where all the chat is appearing. So the first thing that we're going to do here is that we're going to use a very popular AI library called, basically it's just called AI actually. It was built by Vercel, which are the creators of Next.js. And this package is very powerful. It makes it super easy to build an app like the one we see right now.
So I'm going to use it. I'm going to import the different functions that this package offers. And you see that there's a messages array, which is going to contain all the messages of the chat. There's an input variable, which is the input that the user is writing like right now. There's a handler for that input, and then there's a handler for the submit, which sends it back to the AI. Then we're going to define the function, which is the render response. This is the main thing that we want right here. We want to basically show the chat conversation. So this is what this function does. It maps the array of messages, and then it returns just one by one all the messages. That's basically what it does. Then there's a little bit of formatting. There's like an image to show like the avatars, and then it just shows the content of the array. That's it. Nothing complicated here. And then the extra add-on that we're going to add is the last part, is this scroll function. What we're going to do is we just want to automatically scroll down as the chat gets longer than the viewport, so that the text is always within the view of the user. And that's basically it. This is the chat component. So with this, our UI is ready. And what you see is happening right now is that this use chat from the AI library is calling this API. This internal route that we have is /API/OpenAI. So now this is the time to look into how this API route is defined. So let's move into the API route. And you see this is the skeleton. We are importing OpenAI. We're importing a bunch of things from the AI library again. We're defining an OpenAI client. So you just specify, like you do new OpenAI, and then you specify your API key. And that's it. Very simple. It's defined. Here we set the runtime to edge. So this is just make sure that the API runs faster when we deploy on Vercel. It's very nice. Like for side projects, if you want to deploy apps like this, apps that are built on Next.js, they're super easy to deploy on Vercel, literally like 1-2 minutes, and then that's it. You have your app that is deployed, and that's very nice. Now we're entering into the actual handler of the API, and this is this function right here. So it's going to be a post request, and the first thing that you want to do is you want to extract the messages from the request. That's the first thing. And once we have the messages, we can use them to send them to OpenAI. And you're going to use this syntax. So you do openai.chat.completions.create. And inside of the create, you're going to specify a bunch of parameters. So we specify the model that we're going to use. We're using GPT-4 for this. At this date, this is the best model that we have available. Then you have messages. This is where we're going to add all the messages that we're going to send to the AI. You put streaming to true so that the response can be streamed. Streaming just makes the result a lot more smooth, right? Like when the user sees the answer appearing from the AI, is going to appear character by character. Instead of just waiting 10 seconds for the full like result to appear as a block, here is going to appear in a very smooth way. And then we set the temperature, which creates like some variability in the answer. Now we're going to populate the messages array. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to specify a systems prompt. So the systems prompt is basically we tell the AI how it's supposed to behave overall throughout the flow of the conversation. And here, if we want to build a chatbot for the last code bender, this is basically what I say. You are the last code bender. You're a unique individual who has unlocked the ability to read the code of the matrix and shape it at will. You're a hero and an inspiration for millions. You address people as your students. You always reply in an epic and badass way. You go straight to the point, and your replies are under 500 characters. So the AI right now that we've created is going to always follow, or is going to try to follow to the best of its abilities, the system prompt that we have specified. But then you also need to specify also like the exact requests that the user has made. And that's why we're going to send like the messages that are coming from the request. We're going to add it and we're going to send it each time to OpenAI. Once we're doing this, we need to handle the response. So we're going to literally just return it right here. And that's it. We're going to use the OpenAI stream because this is basically a handler from the AI dependency. And this is going to allow us to stream the response. And that's it. We have built the front end. Now we have built our internal API. And the last part, like the last block of the architecture was the OpenAI API, which already exists. That was built by OpenAI. So our app works. And now if I just open it and I say something like, "What's up?" It's going to reply whatever the last code bender replies. And you can ask anything you want, like how to learn JavaScript. And then it tells me, if you want to learn JavaScript, you must embark on a journey of relentless study and practice. Okay, it says a bunch of things. Let me ask, give me a concrete roadmap. And then it starts like spitting out basically a full roadmap. So that's it. This is your very first AI project. Keep building more of them and you're gonna become a true code bender.
I'm gonna leave a link for the code of this chatbot in the description. Now, this is a bonus lesson to help you stand out even more. I've recently started building a lot of different AI apps and I've discovered some interesting and simple tools and APIs to help you build very unique projects. After working as a software engineer for 5 years, I finally found my perfect tech stack. I used it to build 7 AI apps in 7 weeks. That's one app released every week, ranging from chatbots to resume reviewers to art generators. Each app was deployed online, got real users, costed me $0 to run, and I did it while having a full-time job and a YouTube channel to run. Let's start with the front end. I use Next.js as my weapon of choice. It's a React framework that provides me with a couple of nice features like a router, and I also like their API routes, which provides me with a backend without needing to have a separate application running. Since I use Next.js, I also use React since it comes inside of it, right? Next.js is a React framework. I don't do anything too fancy though of React. I just use useEffect and useState. I could optimize my code more, but for me, this is enough for like 90% of what I need. For the CSS, I use Tailwind, and the only reason, honestly, that I use Tailwind is because ChatGPT writes good code with it. Like imagine if I need to create a dashboard in a minimalistic style, dark theme with buttons that have this rounded corner, I can just describe all of this to ChatGPT and it's gonna generate all the code and I can easily copy paste it without wasting any time. That's literally the only reason. I can also provide a picture of like a UI that I like and I say, oh, can you build something similar to this but for my application? And it writes all the Tailwind classes correctly. I just copy paste, add it to my application, and then it's very easy. I do use UI libraries sometimes, like I've used ShadeCN in the past and a few others, but honestly, I'm not too attached to them. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't use them. It's up to you to decide if you need it or not. Next, for the backend, I mentioned that I'm using the Next.js API routes. So that's what I do. I use edge functions for this. So for example, in my case, I'm building AI applications, right? So you're gonna have one API route for your AI. If it's like OpenAI, if you need to do some text processing or image generation, if you use Dolly. So my client side Next.js is gonna call this internal API route. That API route is gonna process the request, maybe add some extra prompts to it, add the system prompt, and then it's gonna send all of this to OpenAI, to like this external API model. And also this allows me to protect the API key because I pass it on the server side on those API routes. So that's super convenient. Next.js provides you the ability to have a front end and a back end through those API routes. It's really nice. For authentication though, I don't like to build the backend myself. So what I do is that I use Clerk. Clerk is like an authentication provider that makes it super easy to add user signups and sign in to your application. Super easy. I think the first time I used it, I spent just a few hours setting that up. And from there, I always use it now for all the projects that I do. Just copy paste that code that I set up once, but it's very easy. Probably in like 20, 30 lines of code, something like that, you're able to set that up. That's very convenient. And then also the nice thing with Clerk is that it gives you all the general authentication providers like Google, like LinkedIn, like whatever it is that you want. People can also log in using those accounts that they have. The other thing that you have to consider for your backend is, especially if you're building AI applications, and especially if you, like me, you're making them available for free, or you don't charge based on the number of requests that users are making. For you, the more requests people do, the more it's going to cost you, right? So you have to think about that. And especially I was giving my apps away for free, so you could sign up and use real AI apps for free. And if people are going to use them to like burn all my credits, I don't really want that, right? I'm not making anything from them. Like I just wanted to share it to the maximum amount of people. So I implemented rate limiting using Upstash. Upstash provides you with a Redis database that is going to track all the requests that you're making to your API, and you can limit specific APIs to a specific number of requests on a time frame that you want. So for example, on some of my applications, I limited the number of requests to 3 per day. I made like an art generator, for example. Every day they could generate 3 images and that's it. And then they have to wait till the next day. And Upstash makes it very convenient, also free to use. The only drawback of Upstash is that they only provide you one database for free. So you can essentially only have one app that is running for free per account. But then if you really want to stay for free, just create the multiple accounts and you can keep using it like that. For hosting, it's very easy. I just use Vercel for all my applications. And the nice thing is that it integrates with GitHub super easily. So I just go on my Vercel dashboard. I click on one button to import the GitHub project. After 2 minutes, your app is fully deployed. And then that's it. You can share it with your friends. You can share it with your parents, share it with online strangers. To get some users. So it's very easy. I have 10 apps right now that are running on my free Vercel account. I'm still on the free hobby tier, and so far all good, right? You only run into limitations when either you want to build something that is an app that is computationally intensive, so you're going to run into limitations on the API side, or if you start to get too many users. But then that's a nice problem to have. You can charge them and essentially make money. It's not gonna cost you a lot even if you have like a paid tier on Vercel. For analytics, the nice thing of using Vercel is that Vercel also provides you with an analytics dashboard that just comes out of the box. The only thing you need to do is you need to install a Vercel analytics package in your app, but also it takes like 2 seconds to add. It's like 2 lines of code. And then you need to enable analytics on the Vercel dashboard. And then that's gonna give you the page views, like the number of visitors coming in, where they're from, like which countries are they from, which device they're using to access your app. So it's very basic like analytics, nothing too advanced. I use this for my projects because right now I just didn't spend too much time on analytics, to be honest. If you want to do something more advanced, and something that I'm gonna start doing later, is Google Analytics. That can be one way. Otherwise, you can set up something like I don't know, Mixpanel or Heap to track your analytics. Next is the special sauce, like the extra spice that I like to consider in the stack, is the API that you're using. So if you're building AI applications, you need to use AI APIs. The thing that I like to do though is, because since those APIs cost money, and if I want to make my apps available either for free or as cheap as possible, I found that there is a workaround. A lot of companies these days, companies like Nvidia, Cloudflare, like big companies who have a lot of capital, they make AI models or AI APIs available for free on a very generous free tier. For example, if you use Nvidia NIM API, it provides you with a bunch of open source models like Mistral, like Llama 3. Those models, for most people, they're just as good as GPT-4. Like for a lot of applications, most people are not going to even tell the difference between the two of them because they're pretty good. Like those open source models or they're decent. And if you get them for free versus paying a bunch of money to OpenAI, obviously it's nice if you can just use something for free. So NVIDIA NIM API has a very generous free tier. Cloudflare AI API has an even better free tier. And then Together AI also has a nice one. So you could essentially alternate between the three. Like whenever one of them, you reach the max amount of credits that you can use, you just move to the next one and you can keep updating your app like this. So that's a nice thing. If you really want to go with paid though, like let's say you really care about performance, maybe you want to use GPT-4, you want to use DALL-E 3, you can use the OpenAI API, that's fine as well. Or you can use Replicate also, that's another nice one that has like a huge library of APIs that you can use. But that's essentially all the ones that I've personally tried. This is the tech stack that have allowed me to build 7 unique AI apps in 7 weeks. This stack is designed to help you prototype apps in the shortest amount of time possible. If you want to build real SaaS applications though, like production level where you can charge people money, obviously you also need a database to track all the user data, and then a payment provider. I recommend just using Stripe. That's the simplest and best one to use. Here are 10 APIs that you can use for your next AI projects. I'm gonna go from the simplest one to the most crazy one. Codebenders, let's go. Random Stuff API, like its name says, is basically just an API that can do random stuff. If you need a joke, it gets you covered. If you want to manipulate images or chat with an AI, anything random that you can imagine, it can do that. So if you want to do a bunch of small random things, you have it through this API. It's free to use and you can access it through the Rapid API. If you want to go more heavily into AI though, I recommend you check the OpenAI API. This is the most popular API when it comes to AI models. If you want to just generate text, things like just chatting or poetry or even code, you can use the GPT-4 models. If you want to generate images, anime, logo, designs, you can use the DALL-E API. I actually used both of those models, like both of those APIs, GPT-4 and DALL-E, to create a custom children book AI generator. It's an app that generates children books based on like a prompt of the user. But that's not all. OpenAI also has the Whisper API, which turns audio into text. And one of the students at my bootcamp actually used it to create an app that turns lectures, like audio lectures at university, into structured notes that you can use to study for exams, rehearse, like review the material of the course. When it comes to costs, from my personal experience and from the students that I've had, you don't really need to worry about it. When it's just you work on personal projects, it's gonna cost you like $1 or $2 to build your project. If you scale it though, if like you share it online and a few hundred people start using it, then yeah, it's gonna increase to maybe 2, 3, 5, like maximum $10. But still, from my personal experience, I got apps that a few hundred people tried it, like 500, 600 people, and I had to pay like maximum $5 to $10. Now, if you want a model that is faster and more performant for text generation specifically, there is a competitor to OpenAI called Anthropic, and they have released a model called Claude 3. On a lot of benchmarks, actually Claude 3 outperformed GPT-4, which is very interesting. So if your use case is like text generation or something that is creative or even code generation, Claude 3 can be very interesting for you. I used it to build a YouTube AI generator that generates like creative video ideas and like titles and scripts. And from my experience testing both models, testing OpenAI and Anthropic, like with their Claude 3 model, did a much better job. It was a lot more creative. Like GPT tends to be kind of like more mainstream and just
not as creative in general. So that's something that you guys can explore, and in terms of cost, it's very similar to what OpenAI does. By the way, Codebenders, if you want to build some AI projects but you don't have ideas, good ideas of what you can do, I've created a pack with 7 unique AI projects ideas that you can build like today. You can download it, there's a link in the description, it's completely for free. Now, if you're in a situation where you need a model with a large context window, something like you want to upload a PDF of a book and you want to be able to chat with it, that's where the Gemini API from Google is very interesting because it has the largest context window out of all the models that we have seen. You can literally upload an entire book and it's going to be able to retain all that context in memory and provide you, like, answer questions based on it, versus other models at some point they just lose the context and they forget what was even the thread of the conversation. The other nice thing when you have a large context window like this is that it essentially, for a lot of use cases, it eliminates the need of using RAG or embeddings. That's useful. Now, we have talked a lot about models that can do text-to-text generation or text-to-image generation, but what about going from text to audio? And that's where 11 Labs come in. You're just gonna give it a few seconds of anyone's voice,
and it will clone it and make it look real.
The API is pretty fast to use, and they have a generous free tier that you can use for most of your personal projects. Another interesting AI that I've actually discovered a while ago, like many years in the past, is Video AI from Google Cloud Intelligence API. So that's an API that allows you to extract metadata about videos that you give it, and it can recognize up to 20,000 different objects and actions and places, which is pretty insane. This means that, for example, if you give it a movie and you want to know what is the specific moment when a bald character with a red shirt was making a joke about eating cornflakes, and you can know that because it's gonna give you the exact timestamp where that metadata showed up. I discovered this API around 2 years ago when I was searching a way to build a library of footage that I can use as B-rolls on my videos, because I was struggling at the time to find specific clips to illustrate some points that I wanted to say, and I thought, what if I had a library where I can just write keywords and it's gonna show me all the best clips from different movies that have this situation in them. And someone actually built something very similar. There's an article that you can check out, like, using this API. And the nice thing too is that you can start using it for free because they give $300 of credits to use it. Alright, but what if we want to go to the next level now and go from text to video? How do we do this? Well, here we're more limited, like, because OpenAI Store is not available yet, unless it is, like, by the time you're watching this, maybe the model is already available. There are a few APIs that you can use for this, and the first one is called Synthesia. You can use it to generate those AI talking face videos. The only problem though is that it's quite expensive if you look at the prices, so I actually like to use another API called Replicate. It's an API aggregator that has some of the best open source models available. If you want to generate amazing art, check out their Stable Diffusion model. If you want to restore images, upscale images, transcribe text, even generate videos, make 3D stuff, there is just an endless amount of models that are available for you. The pricing is reasonable. And the interesting thing is, if you can find some of the new models before they become mainstream, before a lot of people realize they exist, you can build projects that literally go viral. One of my students used one of the Replicate models to create an artistic QR code generator. So it generated that creates QR codes with an artistic layout. And that's the types of projects you can create, especially if you find those models early on before everyone else. You can build viral projects with this. We're not stopping there though. There is another API aggregator that I want to show you because it has some interesting models that I have not found on Replicate. It's called Eden AI. You can use it to do things like automatically parsing unstructured documents from a structured text. So things like PDFs that you have scanned that you want to parse, resumes, invoices. You can then translate those documents. You can also remove backgrounds from pictures, recognize faces, and do a bunch of other use cases. But now, what if I told you there is actually another API that is even more impressive than this, that has all the models that we discussed so far in this video and more? That's called Hugging Face. This is the place where you can find the wildest things. You want a model that animates pictures? No problem. You want to take your face and put it on a bunch of different characters? You got it. And of course, all the regular models like text to text, text to images, text to audio, you have all of those. And what I like is that you also have data sets that you can use to fine tune and train those models. Hugging Face is basically the GitHub of AI models.
Young Chuck sees that AI is the new gold rush. Everyone is jumping on it, so he tries as well. But the competition is more fierce than ever. Everyone is using OpenAI to build projects and businesses. But the last Codebender is different. He also started with OpenAI, of course, but he then went deeper. He dived into new realms to get the edge. That's when he discovered the power of open source AIs, and he's using them to build what no one else is building.
Young Codebenders, my name is Zaurbek. I'm a senior software engineer at an AI startup in New York City, and on this channel I teach you how to use AI to stand out as a developer and build cool stuff. In this video we're gonna see how to use open source AIs to build cool projects with the goal of getting rich in the AI revolution. During my research on this, I discovered a very interesting document. It's allegedly a leaked document, internal document from Google, where they say that open source models will win over time. They will win
On Google, they will win over OpenAI due to the collective efforts of vast amounts of engineers. And this is very interesting because they see that they will literally outcompete the two biggest players in AI right now, which is OpenAI and Google. And there is one passage in particular that really surprised me, is this one. Open source models are faster and more customizable, more private and pound for pound more capable. They are doing things with $100 and 30 billion parameters that we struggle with at $10 million and 540 billion parameters. So this really blew my mind and this caught my attention. So open source models truly are very powerful and have a huge amount of potential. So I want to test that. Which one do you think out of those three images, all of them were generated by AI, but which one do you think was generated by an open source model? I want to see if you can distinguish the difference. Open source models are free, easy to use, they're customizable. 2 out of those pictures are generated by private, like closed source models that are paid. Which one do you think it is? It's actually the one in the middle. The one in the middle is the one that was generated by an open source model. This one was generated by DALL-E. This one here on the left was generated by Midjourney. So open source is truly catching up, and you can see here on this plot as well, it's a plot about the accuracy of some language models. And you can see here are humans at 83.9%, GPT-4 is 85.5%, and look at this Llama 2 70B model is super close to GPT-4, and Llama 2 is an open source model, which again is very, very interesting. So now you're convinced about open source models. You want to explore this, you want to use it to build your next project. Where do you find those open source models? Well, the go-to place to find those models is Hugging Face. And I'll be honest, I knew about Hugging Face for multiple years now, but I always ignored them because I thought like, what a weird name it is, like Hugging Face. What kind of name is that? And then that logo and everything, I thought it was super sketchy and kind of lame also, I'll be honest. But I started to change my mind recently when I started working on this project, this AI project, which is a children's book, a custom generator. To build it, I actually used open source API called Replicate. It's a Replicate hosted an API for Stable Diffusion, which is an open source model. And I was like, man, actually, those models are very interesting and allow you to do very interesting things. And then I had a student who built an app also using an open source model on Replicate, which was like this custom QR code artistic generator. He was doing like QR codes that look like pizza or like cities or stuff like that. So this is very interesting. And that made me dive deeper into open source models and try to understand what is possible to achieve with them. By the way, quick side note, if you like these projects that you saw and you want to build AI apps that look similar to this, the pre-order for my bootcamp is closing soon, so if you're interested and you want to join, go to lastcommand.com/bootcamp. So as I continued my research into open source, that's when I stumbled again on Hugging Face and I decided to give it another shot. And honestly, I was mind blown by the types of things that are available there and just the types of projects that you can build. I'm going to cover this very quickly. You can think of Hugging Face as the GitHub of AI, which is a pretty big statement, but it's actually fairly justified because the amount of models they have is absolutely insane. We're gonna check that very soon. But to get started, if you want to start building a project with Hugging Face, you basically just create a Hugging Face account, get your API key, find training models, find a trending model that you like, pick it, install the Hugging Face dependency, and then run just a basic example to get started. And from there, you can build more and more complex projects. So let's check a few models right now. I'm going to click on this link. It's going to open this page and then you see a list with a bunch of different models. Look at this 15,458 pages of AI models that are available. And you have models for everything. You have multimodals, computer vision, natural processing, languages, audio. You have a ton of stuff. So for example, if I click here on text to image, you're going to find different AIs that are available here that serve like custom purposes. So here you have a model for Stable Diffusion, but then you also have other models for very specific things like this one, for example. This is like a, I don't know, like a spaghetti image generator. And this is very interesting because those models are trained for very specific purposes. And for your application, this might give literally better results than using DALL-E or another like paid closed source API. So you have a ton of things in there. You have audio as well, you have text classification, you have literally anything that you can imagine. It's available there. One thing though that you're going to encounter when you start building apps with Hugging Face is the concept of inference. You will see this keyword in a couple of functions and some packages that you'll need to import in your apps. Inference is the process of applying a trained machine learning model to new unseen data to make predictions or decisions. I like this diagram actually to represent this. The first row here is the training. So you use a bunch of data, a bunch of images of like people, bicycles, strawberries, for example. You have a lot of labeled data that you use to train your neural network. And then that network, that model is able to make predictions based on it, is able to recognize those patterns, right? But what happens if you give it an image that it has never seen before? So you give an image of a bicycle that it has never seen before. It has seen other bicycles, but it has not seen this one. And inference is when it's able to actually predict and accurately determine what what it is, like new unseen data, it's able to know that it's actually a bicycle. So now what I want to do is I want to give you a quick example of an app that we can build with Hugging Face. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build a little translator app that takes text and just translates it in different languages. So first you're going to import the dependency, and then you're going to create an instance for Hugging Face. Then you're going to create starter function. We're going to translate text, right? That's the goal of this little example. We're going to translate this text. So I'm printing it here. Then on this instance, I'm going to call the translation function. I'm going to provide it a few parameters. I'm going to provide this model. So this is a model for translations. I'm going to provide the input, which is the text to translate, and then parameters, which is the language. This is the source language and this is the target language. So I want to translate text from English to French. Once I get the response, I extract the translation text field from it, I print it, and I return that. So we're going to be just calling this function with this text. The text I'm using here is you're watching a YouTube video about artificial intelligence. So let me open a new terminal and I'm gonna run this file. So it shows me the text to translate. Now you have to wait a few seconds and then it's gonna show like the translated text in French. So here you have it. This is the translation. Vous regardez une vidéo sur YouTube sur l'intelligence artificielle. If I want to translate this in Russian, so I'm gonna change the target language from French to Russian and I'm gonna run the script again. Let's see what it gives us. Here we have it. This is a translation. Вы смотрите видео на YouTube о искусственном интеллекте. So this was just a quick example of how you can use the Hugging Face interface to build like something very simple. But obviously you can go ahead and build way more complex apps using the different models that they have available to make very unique projects specific to the use case that you have.
Congrats! Now you have completed the skills module. You're finally ready to land interviews and get job offers. In this module, I will teach you how you can land interviews, prepare for them, crush them, and land offers. I will also reveal why programmers worse than you are making over $120,000 per year. Let's begin.
Young Chuck wants to become a software engineer, but he's wasting his time. He's lost, overwhelmed with too much information, and he doesn't know what to do. He sees his friends finding jobs, people online earning $100,000 or more as developers, but he's just stuck. The market is brutal. AI is taking over. This is when the last code bender comes to help. The last code bender is a top 1% developer. He understands that code and AI are tools to reach his goals, to generate wealth, to become free. He relates to young Chuck because he used to be in the same spot as him. But the difference is that he figured out a game plan, a strategy to stand out in the market, to create his own path. This is the code bender way. I'm gonna give you the fastest way that I know to learn to code and become a software engineer in this brutal market. First, who am I? My name is Zaurbek Stark. I'm a senior software engineer at an AI startup in New York City. I work on top of the Empire State Building, and I gave up to code 3 times before I could make it work, before I found out a strategy that actually changed everything for me. And this is what I'm going to share with you right now. So this video is going to be structured in 3 different parts. Number 1, we need to learn how to code fast. Number 2, I want to teach you how to get interviews at top companies. And number 3 is the last step, how to ace those interviews to land $100,000 or more on job offers. So the first part, phase 1, how to learn to code fast. The complete roadmap, if you're looking for a full stack developer position, you need to learn those technologies. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the command line, React, Git, Node.js, PostgreSQL, and then some bonus things like OpenAI API, because that's super trending right now, and Next.js, also super trending framework right now. So this is like the foundation of what you need to learn. I have created a free roadmap that you guys can use. So if you go here, for example, if you go on lastcommander.com, I'm going to open it right now for you. If you come here, you enter your email, you're going to get access to a free roadmap. This is the roadmap that you see right here, this roadmap. It's free, sign up. You'll get this, but then I'll keep emailing you also some interesting resources that I'm creating. So feel free to sign up. Module 1 is extremely important. So many people miss this step, but it's crucial. This is the reason why 90% of people who start learning how to code online by themselves, they just literally give up. And same thing in college. Most people who sign up for computer science, they literally give up because they don't have the mindset to succeed as a developer. They haven't figured out the reason why they want to code, what is their goal, and how they're going to succeed at it. That's why it's crucial that you go over those steps. So if you open each of those cards here, you'll see there are questions for you to prepare. Take a bit of time to do it because trust me, it's going to save you so much more time down the line. If you spend, for example, just a day or 2 days to answer those questions before actually starting to learn to code, it's going to be a game changer for you. Next, you're going to move to the first module we're actually going to be coding is HTML and CSS. The methodology that I recommend, the one that is the most effective in my eyes out of every different methodology that I've seen, out of all the people that I've talked to, is a project-based learning. So you don't want to just learn the theory and then start coding. You want to have a project that drives your learning. So what I recommend you guys do is right now, pick a project that you want to be working on. Pick something that you would love to see in the world, that you would love to build. Even if you don't know how to code, even if you don't know how to make it happen, but try to think about something that you could potentially achieve that would be exciting for you. And use this as a driving force. So for example, let's say you love using ChatGPT, and let's say you love watching like anime, you love watching Dragon Ball Z, for example. So you want to build a ChatGPT version that is focused on Dragon Ball Z and only answers questions about it, and is focused on like generating images and stuff like that just for Dragon Ball Z. That's your goal. That's like a passion project. And maybe even down the line you can make money with, who knows, probably not because it's copyrighted, but maybe there is a way you could take a little pivot to create something. But right now, just focus on, you have this project that you want to build. How can you make it happen? So the first thing you need is you need to create a blank page, right, for your project. You just want to have like a blank page with a domain name, just some basic information and some nice styling. That's when you need to learn HTML and CSS. That's the first problem you want to solve, the first obstacle. You learn HTML and CSS just to get you to that first step. It's like you're climbing a mountain. You're taking the first step. Here you will see that whenever you open a card, there will be a link to a free course. So I recommend you do that. It's Code Academy. You'll see that it's the same resource throughout the roadmap. It's always Code Academy. It's the best resource so far that I know of for interactive learning. The other resources also that are good, but this one is the one I recommend you to get started on this. Then once you have built that basic page, you want to add a little bit of dynamic elements. You want to add maybe buttons and forms and a little bit of interactions on your website. That's when you need to learn JavaScript. But then maybe you want to refactor it to be more dynamic as an app. Then you learn React. And then later on down the line, you want to add maybe like a backend. You want to add the ability for people to sign up and save the data for the things they create. So then you need to learn a backend language like Node.js and a database like PostgreSQL. And the last step, module 10, this is when you're going to learn how to use AI. And this is when you're going to learn to build the real functionality that you want in your like ChatGPT, Dragon Ball Z clone. It's this module. This one is crucial. I highly recommend doing it because most roadmaps that you're going to see online, they only focus on the first 9 steps. Rarely you will see that this step is mentioned because it's just brand new. It's so new that a lot of people that haven't adapted their roadmaps yet. So I highly recommend you start learning AI and build a portfolio of AI projects. It's extremely important. And here I've actually added some ideas of AI projects that you can build. So for example, you have 5 different ideas here. Teach me how to code as if I was 5 years old. It's like a chatbot, a speech to code converter, an Elon Musk chatbot. They're basically a bunch of different ideas. And then you can use these ideas as reference to build other ones. But I highly recommend you going through this. And if you finish this roadmap, reach out to me. Send me an email. I've added like a little surprise here. Send me an email and I'm gonna give you something if you actually manage to complete that full roadmap. Here I actually have a couple of ideas of AI projects that you guys can build. If you check out my channel, I have a few videos where I taught some beginners how to build AI apps. This is just a few of the apps that I liked that my students built. There is a Wall Street Bets GPT. So it's literally just like a chatbot that is trained on Wall Street Bets data to provide you like financial advice. Then you have RecipePal. So RecipePal is an app that helps you create like personalized meal plans for you based on like ingredients that you have. You have Task Wizard. That's an app that allows you to create tasks for yourself, things that you need to finish, and then the AI will basically generate steps and it will break it down into like very actionable like 10-minute tasks that you can do. Then you have Interview GPT. So this is an app that helps you prepare for your technical interviews. It's actually interesting because we're going to cover interviews in this video as well, but this is like a nice app that you can build. There is this Twitter viral tweet generator basically, or like X post generators, I don't know how you call it now, but this app basically, you have like a text field, you enter the tweet that you want to write, and then it's going to rate it for you. It's going to say out of 10 like what is the quality of this tweet, and it's going to provide you suggestions on how to improve it. So it's interesting for like content creators. And then the last app here is like a QR code artistic generator. So you provide a URL for like a website, and then you provide a description of like what you want the QR code to be like, and then it's going to generate this kind of like artistic QR code. You can make it look like a pizza or something like that, or like a city or whatever. This one, the example here is actually a little bit basic. Just took like a bad screenshot, but it can generate some really cool stuff. So I gave you indications on how to build apps for free, and I give you a few different ideas of AI apps that you can build. But if you want to go a lot more in depth into this, if you want to get like a step-by-step guide where I literally guide you through how to build that app, I give you feedback. You can enter a private community with me. We can have like group calls every week or bi-week on a bi-weekly cadence. Then join my private network. It's lastcodementor.com/bootcamp. I highly recommend it. If you want to grow in your career, if you want to talk about how to like land interviews, how to just make more money in general as a programmer, and how to stay on top of the market, I recommend you join it. It's in pre-order right now. So this means that if you order now, you're going to get a big discount. So check it out. Now we're going to get into phase 2. Once you have learned how to code, once you follow that roadmap and you go through it and you build those projects, those portfolios, you're ready to apply for jobs. And we are targeting not just any jobs, we're targeting the high paying jobs, right? We want to get the best. Those are going to learn a lot and those are going to earn a lot. This is what we're targeting. Right now, maybe you already know this, maybe you already noticed, but the market is brutal. We see like past 2 years, the number of tech layoffs has been absolutely insane. We're talking about numbers like hundreds of thousands of people being laid off. This means that you need a strategy. You cannot do what everyone else is doing because there's a huge amount of people in the market. It's saturated, especially at the beginner level, especially like at the junior developer level. It's saturated. So companies, they give preference to like mid-level or senior engineers now. This means that it's a struggle for you as a young developer coming up. It's going to be very difficult unless you do something different. If you do what everyone else is doing, it's going to be brutal. If you go a different path, then you have chances of succeeding. People are struggling. Everyone is applying to the same position and this makes competition extremely fierce. So this is what I was talking about. We're going to go do what other people don't do. The smart strategy is that you're not going to just focus on any random company. You will only focus on one specific type of company. And that's startups who recently raised. So let me repeat this. You only focus on startups who raised money recently. Ideally like a Series A or Series B startup. The reason why is because those startups, since they just raise money, it means that they're in a phase of hyper growth. And this means that they're going to start actively hiring. There's no startup who raise a lot of money and then they don't start hiring after. It doesn't happen. Every startup, when they get money, they want to use that money for growth. And for software companies, one of the biggest leverage of growth is just to hire more people because you already have ideas of what you want to build, but you just need more people to build it. So they're going to start actively hiring and you can slide in right at the moment when they need you the most. So it's a very strategic moment when you're going to approach them. Those startups usually have product market fit. After they have raised, they have a good trajectory for growth. They will offer a good salary package with bonus and stocks because they want to hire like good talent. You will learn a ton. Interviews are usually easier compared to big tech. It's less competitive because there's less people that come in and then you usually don't have things like lead code and stuff like that. They're less difficult from that perspective. It doesn't mean that it's easy. Like don't think that I'm saying that this is easy. It's not easy at all. It's also very difficult. Like whenever you want to get a good position at a good company that pays you well, they're not going to give it to you like easily, right? Because it's always a competition, no matter what. What I mean though is that you have higher chances of doing this strategy compared to doing something else. That's for sure. So that's why I'm recommending those startups who recently raised Series A or Series B. That's ideal for you. But you can go lower if you cannot find that. That's also fine. Like I started my career in a seed stage startup. So we're like 7 engineers. I was one of the first engineers who joined. Like 7 employees, sorry, not 7 engineers. We're 3 engineers, 7 employees in the company in total. And it was seed stage. And it gave me a lot of experience. And then I went on later in my career to grow and like earn better salaries at better positions. But that's step 1. Step 2, now you need to find those companies, right? You know who you're targeting, but you need to find exactly who are the startups who recently raised. I recommend you check Crunchbase. So Crunchbase is this database of companies. Then you have a lot of information about different companies and you can filter. That's what's interesting. You can filter based on companies who raised under 1 year ago. So within this year, you can check all the companies that raised money and you can filter based on the type of raise, if it's Series A or Series B. Just so you understand, Series B is a company that usually has a good product market fit, good growth, and a Series B is bigger in volume. We talk about like $20 million, $50 million, it can go up to more actually, but it's like a significant amount already. I recommend you select the best 100 companies based on the industry in your area of interest because you're not going to be interested in all the companies there. You'll see there are like thousands of companies, literally. Here, if you look at the screenshot, there's companies that raised within a year a Series A or Series B, there's 4,812 companies. So it's a lot of companies. Ideally, you want to filter it based on industry, based on where you want to work, and then you can select the top 100 companies or more, but start with top 100 and then you can go from there. Step 3, you're going to apply to their job postings. So you're going to open every single company, you're going to find the job postings that they have, and you're going to apply to the relevant position that they have. Also apply even if you don't fit the experience. My very first job, I applied to a position. I was straight out of college, right? Or I was still in college. It was my last year. I applied to a position for a mid-level engineer who had 3 to 4 years of experience. They were not looking for a junior. It was a startup. They needed engineers who can actually work, who have some experience, and they were not looking for a junior at all. But I was like, man, I'm so interested by what the startup is doing. It's like perfect. It's literally what I want to do. It fits the types of projects that I was working on before. Let me just try and let's see what happens. Like, it doesn't cost anything from just trying. So I emailed them. I sent them a resume, I applied to the job portal, and then I got a message back from a recruiter. And he asked me a few additional questions because he was curious why I applied, And I answered those questions. He was like, okay, actually, let's try to schedule a call and see what happens. We called together, we discussed, he liked me. He said, okay, I'm going to send you to a call with with the engineer, the lead engineer in our team. And then so on and so forth. That's how I started getting those interviews. And then I landed a position in that company. That's why don't think that if you don't have the experience, you should not apply. try it anyways. You need to figure out ways to stand out. The market is brutal. You need to do things that are unconventional. That's just the way to go. So apply even if you don't fit. Don't apply to like a CTO position or like a director of engineering, because that doesn't make any sense. But apply if there's like a mid-level engineer like that requires like 2 years of experience or something like this. Still apply for it, because startups, what you need to understand is they're extremely flexible just by the nature of what a startup is. So they can change their requirements literally on the fly based on the candidate. Literally, like I've seen it happen countless times. They can literally change their requirements. That's why don't believe too much what they tell you in the job description, in the requirements. Still apply. That's my recommendation for you. Next thing is point number 4. What you want to do is after you have applied on the job portal. So this is what everyone else is doing, right? Here, you're not different from anyone else. You just apply to those companies. The difference is that you're targeting those very specific startups, but you're still applying to the job portal like hundreds of maybe other candidates are doing. That's why you don't stop there. Everyone else will stop at just applying there. You go the step further. You find engineering managers on LinkedIn or recruiters who work at that company, and you DM them. You try to connect with them and you add a little note. Ideally, those who have a hiring like status on their profile, that's the best. Like you see this guy here, he works at OpenAI, and he on his status he has we are hiring. So this is perfect. Like I would reach out to him, you send him a connection, you add a little note, and you add a message like, hey, like Jonathan, that's his name, I'm interested in a job at OpenAI, or I'm interested in this like growth engineering job at OpenAI. I just had a few questions about working there. Do you mind if I send them over? And you say like, I saw that you're working there for a while and it's great like what you do. The questions are short, I promise. Something like that. Something where you basically, you explain your intent, you explain why you're reaching out, you explain why you're reaching out to him in particular and not anyone else. And then you make sure that it's short so that he doesn't think that, okay, like this guy, I'm going to add him and he's going to like message me 100 different questions. Make sure that he thinks it's like a low time commitment and it looks very genuine and personalized. The last thing you want to do is something that is ultra generic, that looks like you're a spam bot that is just adding people in masses. You want to make it look a little bit personalized, or as personalized as you can actually. That's going to increase your chances. So as a summary, this is the strategy. Number 1, you focus on startups who raised recently. Don't focus on startups who raised like 10 years ago. Focus on startups who raised recently, because it's a sign that they'll be actively hiring. Either they have started actively hiring, either they will start soon. So you can just slide in the perfect sweet moment when they need you the most. It's going to be like a very nice match. I recommend you use Crunchbase as a tool to find those companies. You apply on their job postings. You apply to do that for at least 100 companies, at least 100, because just the nature of the market right now, you need to go for volume, especially if you're like a junior level. And then you don't stop there. You reach out to managers on LinkedIn and you have like this personalized message for them, and you try to start a discussion, which ultimately, ideally will lead to an interview. Because if you say that you're interested in the job, like they're going to look at your profile and then invite you for an interview. What I truly recommend you do is this strategy, you know, you might believe actually that this is too much. It's maybe not worth it because it's time consuming, right? It's easier to apply, instead of applying to 100 companies where you apply and find managers on LinkedIn and DM them, maybe in that same amount of time, you could apply to like 300 companies, right? It's possible. But the reality is you need to think about effectiveness, because I know people, they have applied to literally 2,000 companies. 2,000 companies for 2 years and they're still looking for jobs. I know multiple people like this. The problem is if you're not efficient in your approach, you could apply even to 10,000 companies. It's going to be the same result every time because you're doing the same thing all over again. And at one moment, you need to realize that if something doesn't work, you need to change it, and you need to upgrade it, and you need to figure out a way to be more effective. Because the reality is if you're super effective, you won't even need 100 companies. But I'm saying 100 because you're not going to be the most effective at the very start. It's going to take a little bit of time. So you kind of need that volume. But this strategy that I explained to you, trust me, it's worth it. It's going to be the best return on investment in terms of time. Imagine if you do this for 100 people, right? So you've DM'd 100 people on LinkedIn. You get 30 replies. Also, by the way, 100 people, that's the maximum limit on LinkedIn per week. Also, just so you know, like you might saturate if I think it's like 20 per day. You can send 20 connection requests per day and 100 per week. I think it's something like this in total. But anyways, you can spread out across like a few weeks if you get a problem. But you reach out to 100 people, you're gonna get maybe like 30 replies or something like that. From those 30 replies, maybe if you communicate well, you might, and if you have a good profile, so you went through all the steps that I explained, you have a good profile, then you can get maybe 5 to 10 interviews. And then from those interviews, ideally you will land an offer at one of those companies. That's kind of like the process. That's kind of, you think about it as a conversion funnel of the effort that you put in, the investment that you put in, and then it's going to give you that return. So I highly recommend this strategy. But for it to work, what you need is you need a good resume and you need a good LinkedIn profile. That's crucial. It's very, very important that you have that. So we're going to look into this right now. The master resume blueprint template. So I've actually been giving coaching calls to a few of you about like how to craft a good resume, LinkedIn profile, how to apply for jobs, how to actually implement this strategy like in practice. All right, I'm gonna give you a little crash course on resumes. Listen up because this is very important. So I'm gonna take the 2 resumes that I've helped them improve. Those are not perfect, but you'll see there are a couple of interesting things that you can take notes of. So I'm gonna say what they do well in this improved version and where there's still room for further improvements. So I'm gonna start with Billy. He's a front-end developer. He's based in Chicago. Here I've just hidden some personal information, but I like the order of sections. So this is very important. You wanna structure information in the order that is the most relevant information at the top. So first you start with work experience, then education, then projects, and then skills. I'm not a big fan of the 2-column layout. I think a 1-column layout is better, in my opinion, because it's just easier to read, but 2-column layout can also work. For work experience, if I start here, I see the first thing that I can comment is I have no idea what novatech.com is. So I would actually flip the order. I would first say the role. So in big, I'll put the role first in bold, and then I'll put the company. Because this is what, as a recruiter, this is what I want to know, right? Like recruiters, they only care about the most relevant information and they want to see, okay, like we have a job description and we're searching for people who match that job description and who will be successful for that role. They just want to understand that you have good experience and that you can actually code and get things done, right? So that's all. So you want to highlight in the work experience that you have relevant experience for that position that you're applying to. Here, the thing is, in general, I recommend 3 to 5 bullet points per experience and start always the bullet points with a power verb. So here you have it. That's good. You have like built or created e-commerce website. I would just try to add a little bit more of impact. What did you do specifically? For example, if you just say I created an e-commerce website for people sell their stuff. Okay, this is, you need to fix the English here. But the most important thing is I would actually add impact there. So for example, I say I implemented or I coded an e-commerce app with 10,000 products in the database, for example, right? Because then this gives an idea of scale. Like, is it, because if I just read this, I have no idea. Is it a project that you built in one day? Is it something that you deployed and that you have people using? Is it a big project with like a full stack where you had a database and you build a front end, you build plugins and you build like authentication and a couple of different things? I have no idea. If I just read this, I literally think like, okay, maybe was it like a small 1-day project? Like, what was it? I have no idea. And you have to think from this perspective because recruiters, they have no idea who you are and what you do. So they're going to assume not the worst, but they're not going to assume anything positive about you if you don't say it. Then experience. Okay, you have this. So it's not in computer science. All right. But you have online courses in coding. If you have certificates, maybe I would add, like instead of saying online course, I would add like certifications. Personal projects, e-commerce website, chat web app, blog web app. Those are very good projects. That's nice. The only thing that is missing is it's not using power verbs. Like you're more describing what it is. I would again try to add impact. Like whenever you can, try to make it more technical and explain more what you were able to achieve and what you built. Then you have skills, languages. Okay, all right. I'm going to show you the other resume now from Adham in Palestine. So this one, I actually like the layout a lot more. It's the same layout that I use for my resume. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. I can send it to you. This one, I like it because it's 1 column. It's very easy to read. It's spaced out. It's like visually pleasing. It's like a minimalistic design. So here Adham, he's still a student, so he's graduating. This means that he doesn't have work experience. So you skip, if you don't have work experience, just skip that section, right? Add education on top and then add projects. That's what he did. That's perfect. You add the most relevant courses. That's good. If you have anything that is special around your education, like maybe you're in the top 5% of your class or something like this, add it also. That's another way to stand out. And then you add the project section. Here, I recommend like 3 to 4 projects. So that's good, especially if you don't have a work experience. Ideally, try to compensate it on the number of projects. So if you have 4 like solid projects, that's very good. You add the name of the project, you try to make it very comprehensible for a recruiter. You add the technologies you build, and then you add like 3 to 5 maximum bullet points. Always start with a power verb. That's something he's missing actually. Because if you see here, website utilize a deep neural network. I'm like, all right, the website utilizes this, but did you build it? What did you do there exactly, you know? Then I would rephrase it instead to say like, implemented a deep neural network and then to like optimize X, Y, and Z or to get X, Y, and Z, you know? Same here, for example. Here you say user input their blood pressure readings into the website. But that's like, that doesn't tell me what you build exactly. Instead, if you said implemented feature to collect blood pressure readings from users and analyze it in the backend, for example, you know, then it makes it a lot more concrete and I can understand what you implemented, because instead of having like a passive sentence, you make it active, and that's a lot more powerful. That's what I recommend for all of them. And then below you have the skills, which I really like the way this is done. Because you want to break it down, right? Like there's skills, there's code, languages, and frameworks that you know, but then there are tools that you know how to use, and then there's languages like English or Arabic or like whatever language, French, like whatever language you know. This is like a good template for a resume. I'm gonna go over now some guidelines. What you need to understand is that in general, recruiters, they will spend 10 seconds or even less per resume. Literally, sometimes they'll spend even like 5 seconds and then they'll decide if they want to skip or they want to continue reading. They only spend more time on a resume if there is something interesting, right? So a recruiter sees a resume and from the very beginning, the top section, they see that you don't have the right experience or like it's completely confusing, it's not clear what you do. Then they're going to literally skip and then they're going to move to the next person because they have a sufficient amount of candidates in general. That's why you want to capture their attention quickly. And as you capture their attention, they're going to stay longer with you because they keep getting interested in like what is that you're doing. You want to keep the resume to 1 page maximum. I've seen a lot of beginners make 2 pages and I don't get it. Me as a senior engineer, I'm able to fit the most relevant experience I have in 1 page. I know people who are a lot more experienced than me, who have a lot more years of experience, they're still able to fit in 1 page. If you're a beginner, there's no reason why you cannot fit everything in 1 page. You will have to deprioritize some things, right? You'll have to cut some projects. Like I'm not mentioning every project that I've ever built on my resume because some are outdated, some are not the most impressive. So you want to keep in that 1 page, you want to keep only the most relevant experience projects that you did. The sections in order I mentioned before, you have work experience first, then education, then projects, then skills. Work experience, if you don't have any, then just skip it. Then just keep education, projects, and skills. In that case, just keep those 3. 3 to 5 bullet points per experience and projects. Always, no more than that. Because if it's less than that, it's too little. If it's more than that, it's too much. 3 to 5 is like a sweet spot. Then you start each point with a power verb. Because you want to make it active, right? You don't want to sound passive. Like your project, describe your project as website that utilizes features to do this. Like I have no idea what you did actually in this project and you're just describing what it is, but it's passive, it's weak, it's not impactful. Instead, use power verbs. You said like, I built a new onboarding system or I built a new onboarding flow for an app and I optimized conversions by 20%. That's super interesting. That's clear. I'm like, okay, dang, like this dude, he rebuilt the onboarding system. He probably changed a few things to get the conversion improved. So he's an engineer who thinks about impact and numbers. That's a lot more powerful than someone who says like our website had a nice designed onboarding system. You're like, what is that, you know? So always use power verbs and make it like active. And the last part is you focus on the impact. You focus on numbers. Even if you don't know exactly, try to provide an estimation. Like I said, the example, if you refactor the onboarding and you improve the conversion rate by 20%, you might not know exactly how much, or you improve like the loading speed by 30%. Try to provide estimations even if you don't know exactly, because sometimes it's hard to estimate numbers or to give like exact numbers. At least provide estimates of what you think is reasonable, because then you just make it a lot more powerful versus just talking in like generic marketing terms, you know? So now, once you have followed all the steps that I've laid out, you have followed phase 1, which is learning how to code fast. Phase 2, which is the right strategy to start getting interviews. Now we're going into phase 3, which is how to ace those interviews to land $100K or plus job offers. So we're going to see this right now. We're going to look into the types of interviews that exist. So first, to understand the type of interviews, you have the behavioral interview. This one is like honestly the simplest. This is where you really are supposed to shine. They ask you questions about you, your experience, why did you apply for this position. It has usually multiple rounds because it's kind of diluted across different steps of the interview process. The first round is with your recruiter. So whenever you apply for a job, a recruiter is going to call you, then you speak on the phone or like via Zoom call, and then you just ask those basic questions. So you need to be ready to answer those. Whenever you talk to a manager or like in the very final stage where you talk to like the CEO of a company, for example, if it's like a startup or something, they're going to also cover a little bit of that as well, because every step of the interview that you get, they're always going to ask you to introduce yourself. They're going to ask you some very basic questions about you. So you want to really nail them and be very confident answering them. So this is the first type of interviews, the behavioral type. Then we're moving to the technical type. And there are 3 different types of interviews, and the companies utilize different ones depending on just the company. There is a technical screen. That's the interview where there's no actual coding. They just ask you about technical concepts. That's all. Like they ask you about how React works, for example, if you're like applying for a full stack position or front end position. They ask about just different concepts about like hooks. If it's full stack, they will ask you about some backend questions like what are SQL joints and stuff like that. This actually, you know what's funny is for the technical screen, then you have the lead code style of interviews. This is like the most dreaded type of interviews. You guys know about it. It's the ones where it's like about data structures and algorithms. It's like usually 50-minute coding challenges. No one likes those. And then you have the projects. Projects is basically they ask you to build a little app in like a few hours or a weekend, and they give you very specific criteria that you need to fulfill. And then once you're done building it, you just send it to them and then they review it. So this is like the different types of interviews. For me, when I was starting up, I didn't know anything about those things. I kind of knew that there was like a behavioral interview. They ask you questions about who you are, etc. But I had no idea about the technical ones. I thought literally like I was, you know, the stage when I started applying for jobs, I was like a decent coder. Or in my mind, I thought I was okay. I was pretty decent. I had like built like a few projects. I thought like this was enough. I didn't rehearse any technical thing before my first interview. And I remember it was a lead code challenge actually that I got. I had no idea what lead code was. Like I didn't even know this existed. I was completely like new to all of those things because the thing is I switched from electrical engineering to computer science. So it was brand new for me. And I remember I got like the first challenge, I received it and I was like, okay, like this looks like just a basic coding challenge. I'm going to be able to solve it in like, I remember it was like 40 or 50 minutes. Very quickly I realized that it's actually not that simple. It's actually very complicated. And it was a lead code easy question. Even though it was lead code easy, I struggled like crazy to finish it. And I think at the end I got like only 2 out of 10 test cases covered. And I made like the most brutal, like brute force approach. And I could only solve 2 of 10 test cases. So yeah, basically I got completely destroyed, but this was a learning lesson to help me do better. So you have an overview of what the type of interview like styles are. Now we're gonna see how to nail the behavioral interview, and then we're gonna go into the technical one. And you'll see, like I'm gonna give you like a few tips for it. The behavioral is really the easiest. This is when you have to shine, honestly. If you do very well here and they really like you, it's not gonna guarantee you a job offer, obviously, because you still need to be technically good. But trust me, it's gonna be a very big difference if they have candidates that are pretty similar. If they like you more, they're gonna pick you. So behavioral has a very important step, and this is the one that starts everything. It starts the discussion. So you really have to shine here. Prepare all the questions in advance, keep it short and concise, and focus on impact. Focus on what helps you stand out compared to the rest of the people. Focus on what's gonna make you be memorable compared to other people. Know everything that you have on your resume and be ready to talk about it, because as soon as you add something on your resume, you have to realize that it's fair game for them to ask you about it. Know everything there. And the types of questions is typical, like, can you tell me more about yourself, the projects that you worked on, what did you learn work on those projects? Is those types of questions. You can literally Google like behavioral questions for software engineers and you'll have like a list. Usually it's nothing too complicated, but just you need to be comfortable answering those questions, and you don't want to be like mumbling and rumbling and talking about like random crap, right? Like you want to be very specific and high quality, focus on impact. This is what you want. So for example, if they ask you introduce yourself, it's nice if you can actually mention things that help you stand out compared to other people. Like if you just say, oh, like I'm a student, or like I just have a year or 2 of experience and I'm looking for a software engineer position and I'm very motivated. Like this is a horrible answer, because this doesn't tell me anything. I already know you applied for a software engineering position. I know that this is what you want. I've seen your resume, like the experience you had roughly, right? And then I know, like I assume you're motivated if you're applying here. So this doesn't tell me anything. Instead, I want proofs. Like you say, okay, I have like 2 years of experience, or like I've been coding. If you're student, like I've been coding for the past 4 years. I like really love it, and I saw your company. I'm super like passionate about what you guys are doing. I build like projects. I build this AI project that gives like recommendations for like X, Y, and Z. Passionate about this thing, and this is why I've applied to your company. So you give like you try to make it super specific, and you try to give very unique things that you have achieved that are specific to you, and you try to add numbers whenever you can. So if you add numbers about the experience that you have, like the number of years of experience, if you have any numbers that you can quantify, it's kind of like a rule for resumes, right? Like when you write a resume, you try to focus on impact for every like experience that you add, and you try to focus on adding some numbers of things that you have accomplished. Same thing here. Prepare those things. The answer to every question should literally be like 3 lines long maximum. It should always be very short and concise, and then can start like a more like organic discussion from there. But yeah, this is the behavioral interview. You just want to prepare in advance, and you can literally rehearse with your friends. Like if you have a friend or like if you have a family member, literally ask them to be the interviewer, ask them to ask you those questions and answer. Like ask them to ask you, can you tell me more about yourself, right? And then you answer to them, because that's going to help you be a lot more natural and like not stressed when you have to answer those questions in an interview. Now we're moving to the technical interview. We're going fast, bro. The first thing you're going to get is a technical screen. Technical screen, like I said, is when they ask you like those concepts, right? Those technical concepts. I still remember, man, the first technical screen I got, it was so messed up. So it was this company, they actually did the reverse of what most like companies
companies do. Most companies, it starts with like a call with a recruiter, then they do the technical screening, and then they ask you for a project to build over like a few days. This company did the opposite. The first thing they sent me was a project to build over the span of like a weekend. And I was like, okay. It was like one of my first interviews back then, so I didn't have like the luxury of like choosing and be like, oh no, like I'm not gonna dedicate like a lot of time to this company where I don't even know like where this is gonna go. But so I had very little like choices, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I tried to do my best. I spent like the whole weekend building this app. I really did well because they liked it a lot. You see here, they said like, this is a screenshot of the email that I got from them. They're like, oh, like nice job on the challenge. I like the polished UI and clean and easy to follow Node and React code. So they liked what I did basically. They liked that the code was clean. And I was like, man, this is perfect. This is a very nice sign. Because after this, the next step is the technical screening. And then it's like a talk with like, because it's the startup, it was a talk with their CEO and CTO. And then I would get the offer. So I was super pumped. I was motivated. I was like, perfect. Like if I nail the hardest challenge, I'm gonna do well at the other one. And in the technical screen, they started asking me questions about like commands, like for the terminal, about like things about SQL, the big O notation for like some algorithms. And I didn't know any of those things because I was more focused on projects and I didn't come from a computer science background. So I didn't have some of those things that I needed for this position in particular, because they really cared more about the back end and I was a little more front end like leaning. So I remember the interview was supposed to be 30 minutes and halfway through, the guy literally said, okay, I don't think it's going to work for us. Like we're searching for someone else who knows those things. And I was so disappointed. I was like, no, please give me a chance. Like I can learn those things quickly. And they were like, no, we're looking for someone who already knows this. And I was so disappointed. And he literally hung up after like 15 minutes. Even though I spent an entire weekend working on the project for them, like that's it. After 15 minutes, he just hanged up on me. I was so mad, bro. Like I was extremely disappointed on myself also. But the thing is, like everything, I always say, it's all a learning experience. But you know what's interesting is right after this interview, like the next one I had, it was actually a month after, so not that soon, but I got similar questions. But the experience that I got in this interview helped me solve that other one, and that other one led me to my first six-figure offer. So there is good in everything. You take it as it comes, learn from it, and inshallah, you're gonna be successful. Here, what I actually recommend you do to prepare for those types of interviews is literally you Google questions for full stack developer technical screen, and then you add the keyword GitHub, because this is going to give you like a GitHub repo of like a ton of different questions. Like there's this screenshot I've added of one example. You can check this one. It's from Indy256. You can check this repo. There are a ton of them. Check depending on the position and what you think they're going to ask. Like I would look into the job description, the technologies they list. I would try to at first understand this. And then depending on if it's a more of a front-end position, more of a back-end, or more of a full stack, you can adapt like your preparation based on that. Next comes the lead code style questions. So this is what everybody hates. Literally. It's like this meme is so relevant, bro. Like it's like you make those you solve those 500 lead code questions, and then in the interview you get that one question that you didn't prepare for. But that's life. This is just the way the industry is. You have less lead code style questions if you go to startups. So startups, they don't do lead code as much. It's mostly like big tech corporations. So that's why like I recommend often to people, especially given the market right now, given the layoffs in big techs, startups are increasingly becoming more attractive, especially with the new advancements in AI. There's a lot of opportunities there. So it's very interesting. But yeah, lead code in general, it's all about practice. Literally, someone who's a lot smarter than you can do a lot worse than you just because you have been practicing a lot more. Like you could do a lot like better than me. I'm a senior engineer. I haven't done lead code in a while. You could do 10 times better than me because it's just literally practice. You need to rehearse those algorithms. You need to rehearse your speed at which you solve it and the speed at which you recognize like the patterns in those challenges. So it's literally just practice. But I'm gonna give you some strategy, like the best strategy that I know to prepare for it. First, you need to take a course in data structures and algorithms. If you don't know it already, you need to learn it somehow, right? So you need to take a course. You can start with a free course. Don't need to go for something complicated. Find a course online and start with that. Then after that, you're gonna start with easy lead code problems. So you go on leadcode.com, filter the problems by easy difficulty. So you start with easy and then you solve them. You're gonna time box it to 45 minutes per problem, not more. 45 minutes maximum. If you get stuck earlier than this, so let's say you're trying to solve a political problem and you get stuck after 10 minutes, you're fully stuck and you cannot do anything, then look up the solution. But don't look up the entire solution, just look up what you need to get started. And then you try to get started. And again, next time you're stuck, try to look up the solution just to get you to the next step to get you unstuck, right? Don't look into the full solution straight up because that's how you're gonna learn the maximum amount. Once you're comfortable solving easy political problems within 45 minutes by yourself, so by yourself, not cheating, then you're ready to move to medium lead code problems. For medium lead code problems, is the same process all over again. You time box it to 45 minutes
For each problem, you look up whenever you're stuck for more than 10 minutes, you look up whatever you need to just get unstuck, and then you repeat that process as much as you can until you get pretty comfortable solving medium problems. You don't need to solve hard problems because barely any companies ever ask like hard lit code problems. Usually it's either easy or medium. And once you're comfortable with the medium ones, you're ready for your interviews. It's basically this. And you need to do this process like 100 times. Like you need to solve at least 100 lit code problems, ideally. And then we're moving to part of the interview that I love the most. So usually startups, they're gonna have this project style interview. They're not gonna have lead code usually. And big tech, they're not gonna have a project, they're gonna have lead code instead of the project. That's why like I can tend to prefer startups just as a natural. I just like to work on startups more. So this is what I like to do more. And this is this meme of like the Chad project developer versus the virgin lead code. So to prepare for the styles of interviews, what I like is that it's literally what you have been doing to build your resume, to build your portfolio of projects. You have been building projects to build your portfolio of projects, right? And this interview is literally just building another project. So that's why it's so like it's nice because it's way closer to what you're going to do on the job. It's way closer to what you have naturally been doing. And so it's easier to prepare. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to pick your favorite tech stack. So it's the stack that you use to building your projects in the fastest way possible. So if it's like React, Node, like whatever it is, just pick the stack that you're super comfortable with, that you have experience building projects fast, because you don't have time to waste in this in this interview step. Then you need to prepare a boilerplate template in advance. The advantage of it is that you can spin up a project super quickly. Like if you need to spend like an hour like setting up your project every time, that's way too long. You need to be able to spin up a new project in literally 30 seconds. 30 seconds you need to have an app running that is just like a boilerplate basic. There's nothing, it's just like a blank screen, but you have an app running with all the basic modules and dependencies that you need. And finally, you just practice building full stack apps. That's all. So all it is. Usually there's rarely like some trick questions. Like if you've done a few projects in full stack and you've done it by yourself, you haven't like cheated or something like this, you have literally coded by yourself, then you're going to be able to nail those interviews no problem usually. If you do the first two steps, so you have a template that is ready in advance, then you can go a lot faster. If you do all the steps, if you do the correct preparation, you should be ready to land that 100K plus offer.
Now that you know how to land job offers, it's time to go to the next level. What? There is a next level? Yes, not every software engineer gets paid the same for the same job. Some get paid $50,000 for the same job. Others get paid $80,000. The others get paid $120,000. Which one do you want to be? Let's look into how to maximize your salary.
Young Chuck recently became a software engineer. He's working as hard as he can at his job because he wants to get a promotion. His salary is alright, but he knows he could get a lot more. He just doesn't know how to get it. Right now he can afford rent and save a bit at the end of each month. But then comes the last contender. The last contender knows his worth. He's making double of what Young Chuck is making. Not because he works a lot harder than Young Chuck, but it's because he's a lot more strategic. He understands that it's not about the hours of work, but about doing smart work. Hey, my name is Zaurbek. I'm a senior software engineer at an AI startup in New York City, and in this video I'll talk about how you can get paid more as a software engineer. There is something that you guys need to understand, is that right now there are programmers who are dumber than you, less experienced than you. They don't have anything that you don't have, and yet they're getting paid over $100,000 a year, $120,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year. And that's because programming isn't just about being the smartest coder. There is more to this story. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 strategies that you can utilize to maximize how much money you can make as a software engineer. First, you need to target the right companies. And by that, I mean that you don't just target any companies, or you don't just go after every company that everyone else is going. There is a smart approach to this. The best companies are actually the startups who recently raised a lot of money. And many people don't think about that. The reason why those companies are the best to target is because if they raise a lot of money, usually it's a sign of high growth. It's a sign that the business is doing well. And you always want to be on board of a ship that is doing well. Next is, since they just raised a lot of money, it means that they have money. They have money to spend. And they are ready to spend it on growth, which is very, very important. A startup who has raised a lot of money, they want to spend it on growth. And usually what that means is hiring more people, more engineers. They want to move fast. And that's extremely important because this means that they're not going to just like randomly ghost you and then come back after a month or do like interview process that lasts for multiple months. They're going to be moving very fast and interviews are going to be accelerated. Usually that's what it means. It's also less competitive than big tech because less people apply there compared to big tech. It doesn't mean that it's easy, it doesn't mean that it's not competitive, but it's less competitive. And the interview process is just simpler usually, it's faster. That's why these companies are extremely interesting to target. And that's what I recommend. There's a lot of different resources that you can use. You can use Crunchbase, for example, to identify companies who raised. I think the best is actually companies who raised the Series B, because those companies, they have like product market fit, they have a model that works, they're usually bigger in size, and you're going to learn a lot there. It's less risky compared to an early stage startup who just raised. I think a Series B startup is like a sweet spot to go there, and then you're going to get equity, and the equity can be worth a lot of money if they go get acquired or get IPO. Next, you need to pick a strategic location. And this is very important because you need to realize something. The same company can pay you $50,000 to $100,000 more depending on where you get hired. Like if you get hired somewhere in Asia or somewhere in Europe or somewhere in America, your salary is going to be completely different. Same company, a similar job, but just different location. And yes, that's enough to shed a little tear. This is a list of cities that pay high salaries. So you have like the top US cities. Usually it's the big cities, either in the US, in the UK, like Zurich is for Switzerland, Dubai, Singapore, and more. It's not an exhaustive list. You can find it. Just Google list of cities that pay the software engineers the highest, and you're going to be able to find it. If you have an alternative to move to one of those cities and you're down for it and it works for you, for your life, you want to get that experience, then I recommend start planning for that. Start seeing like how can I move to one of those cities and find a job there to just maximize my salary and also meet just smart people who are there. That's one approach. But there's another one that I think for most of you guys is going to be very interesting, is remote. The pandemic changed a lot of things in the tech market, and a lot of people went remote. A lot of people, even that I know who are here in New York with me, even like at my company where I work, a lot of people, they stay in a big city that pay high salary, but they work remotely. Or they live here and they work remotely for a company that is even in a different city. It doesn't really make sense. People, yeah, I guess they just like living in the city, but from a like financial perspective, it doesn't always make sense. But the point of all this is that remote in tech is becoming more and more popular, and a lot of companies are completely fine with you working remotely. So the goal here is that you want to find the companies that pay the same no matter where you are in the world. And there are a few companies like this. Again, you can Google it to find like a more exhaustive list and keep searching, but this is a list of a couple of companies that I know personally. They pay the same for engineers no matter where they are in the world. There's Gumroad, there's SourceGraph, Basecamp, Cal.com. It's all startups. So this I would consider you check out and see if you can get hired at one of those companies, because then you're going to be paid the US salary, but you might be somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Asia or in Africa. So that can be extremely interesting for you. You're going to get the benefit of living at home with your family, low cost based on the local market, but then the salary based on like US market. That's what I recommend to most people. Next, you want to do something that most people don't do, is you push for a raise. Most people, they just wait for a raise to come to them, but you don't want to be like that. You want to be proactive, because that raise might never come, or it might never come the way you want it to be. The thing that you need to realize as well, like this is another thing that is going to blow your mind, is there are engineers right now who are sitting next to you doing the same job as you. Same thing, same job, same location, doing the same thing as you, but who might be earning $5,000 more than you, $10,000, $20,000 more than you, or more. And how do they do it? Well, this means that probably they negotiated their salary better than you when they took the contract, or they are pushing for more promotion. Could also be both of them. Maybe they negotiated better than you and they're pushing for more promotion. So literally the salary keep rising more and more, and yours keep just stagnating at the minimum or not at an optimized value. And you cannot blame them. Like, this is what you should be doing. You should be doing those things, and you should be like, the thing is, this shows you more the potential of what you could reach. That's how you should think about it. Instead of thinking about, oh, like, why do those people get more? You should think about, how can I get to that level as well? To do it, you need to be smart and strategic. You cannot just go and ask for promotion randomly. You can do it, of course, but it's not the most strategic move on the chessboard. You need to be smart, and you need to build up a case. You need to essentially make it very hard for them to say no. That's what you want. You want to make it hard for them to say no to you. If you just come randomly and ask for promotion, it's very easy to say no. It's easy. Like, they can come up with some kind of just crappy excuse, like, oh, like the economy is going bad right now, like we're struggling or something like that. But if you build up a case, if you have just an undeniable track record of success, it's very hard for them to say no. So you're going to first start by showing the value that you bring to the company. And this is very important. If you don't bring any value at all, if you're not an important employee for the company, so first of all, you need to question yourself and then think, like, why would they even keep me in the first place? Or why would they even want to pay me more if I'm not bringing any value? So you get paid proportionally to the value that you bring. So you need to showcase the value. And you do it by listing the accomplishments that you did since the last promotion you had or since the time you joined the company. You list out all the accomplishments that you had, all the initiatives that you took. So if you helped some other colleagues, for example, if you helped onboard someone, if you pushed the team or the company to start work on a certain direction that helped, that's initiatives that are important that bring value to the company. You can also talk about the growth of the company. So if you joined, like, for example, a year ago and you see that in the span of a year, the company grew by, like, the revenue grew by 20%, you can mention this. You can be like, okay, if the revenue of the company is growing, how come I, who helped generate the revenue, how come I'm not getting a piece of that? Why is my salary still the same as it was before? The other thing that you should mention is the economy, because as we know, inflation every year, it fluctuates, but you need to match. Like, basically, if you joined the company a year ago, you check what was the inflation rate for this past year, and then you make a case that if you stay at the same salary as you were a year ago when you joined, it actually means that your salary decreased, because with inflation, that money is worth less now. So it's as if your salary decreased by like 5% or 8% or like whatever the inflation rate is. So that's also an argument. I wouldn't like start with that, like, because this is like a weaker argument compared to the accomplishments and the value bring. So always start with the value bring and then mix it up like that. Depending on what they say, you can also add that as well as an argument. But basically, you're gonna have a list of things, and then it becomes hard for them to say no. But let's say you go to your manager, you talk to them, and then you build up your whole case, you think you deserve a raise, and then they say no. For whatever reason, they'll try to be nice to you, but they're gonna say no ultimately. There is a last strategy that you can try, but I warn you, it's the most powerful one of them all, but it's the one that's gonna take you the most time. And that's the one where you need to apply to other companies, interview there, and get offers. If you get offers, this is the highest leverage you can ever have whenever you're in a negotiation position. What you do is, at this stage, you take those offers that you received, you go back to your manager and you say, listen, I really enjoy the company, I love working here, but I got an offer from this other company, they're paying me this much. Is there something we can do? I would love to stay here, but I would like at least to have that amount. And ideally, the offer you got is a salary that is higher than what you're currently getting, because then you can use that as leverage. If the company says yes, perfect, you stay there and then you continue your growth and you get paid at the salary that you want. If not, or if you realize that the offer that you got is actually better, it's a better company, better pay, everything is better for your career, then just go take that one. You always need to think about two things. Any given place where you work, either you learn a lot or you earn a lot, or a combination of both. So if you're very happy with your position right now because you're learning a lot of things and you're getting paid well, then that's perfect. Stay there, and you should stay there as long as you can. And as long as it makes sense for you. If you get paid very well, but you don't learn as much, then maybe you can use that salary to, I don't know, like work on personal projects on the side. And then you're going to learn through that. If you're learning a lot, but not getting paid a lot, then it's kind of tricky. You can do that for some years at the beginning of your career, maybe, but then at some stage it's gonna be a problem. And then at that stage, just move to another company or start a business. But if you're not getting either, if you are at the position where you're not getting paid enough, where you're not gonna get paid what you deserve or what you know you could get based on the market, and you're not learning enough, then you should just leave. It doesn't make any sense to stay at that position. And if you get a better offer, just move there. And this is how you're gonna maximize the salary that you could be getting as a software engineer. Young Codebenders, I'll give you 10 cheat codes that will get you ahead of 99% of software engineers. And at the end, I'll also give an 11th cheat code that I don't see anyone talk about. So first, to start with, who am I to say all of this? Well, this was me. A few years ago, I was just a broke student. I didn't really know anything and I couldn't land a single interview. And this is me. 3 years later, I'm a senior software engineer working on top of the Empire State Building at an exciting tech startup entering the AI space. I'm gonna cover those 10 cheat codes plus the bonus one, and I'm gonna go from least powerful to the most powerful. Starting with the first one, learning AI. So this is you. This is how you're gonna look like once you master AI. This is what a Codebender looks like. You guys know it if you follow this channel. I keep talking about AI, I keep talking about the importance of learning it. Some of you guys listen, others don't. But I'm gonna say it again. AI is the biggest revolution of our time. In my opinion, it's gonna be bigger than the Industrial Revolution. So you have to start learning it now. You have to make it part of your learning journey. And the best way to begin doing that is to build projects and use projects that start with the most popular AI API that exists, which is the OpenAI API and their GPT models. The project that I always recommend people to start with is just a chatbot, because there's millions of different applications that you can do using a chatbot. You can build a chatbot based on the personality, like, I don't know, like an Elon Musk chatbot, Joe Rogan chatbot, Lex Friedman, or whatever personality that you want. You can build a chatbot that speaks like them and allows users to interact with them. But then you can also build a chatbot specific
to an application like finances. For example, like a financial advisor bot, or something related to education, like for example, a tutor. So there's millions of different things that you can do, but always utilize the OpenAI API, and you're going to learn a lot with that. And then from there, you can learn new technologies, different APIs that different companies are building. But this is a very good starting point for you. If you want to learn how to do this step by step, how to build AI apps and how to get ideas of AI projects that will actually help you stand out in the current market and how to find a high paid job, I'm actually teaching all of this to my students in the Codebender AI Accelerator Bootcamp. So you can join it, link in the description. It's lastcodebender.com/bootcamp. It's in pre-order right now, so you're gonna get a special discount if you enroll now. So I recommend it. But even if you don't do that, like let's say you're just learning by yourself, still like make AI part of your learning process. Otherwise, you're gonna fall behind, and then it's gonna be very hard to catch up. Cheat code number 2: network. This is even more important in the era of AI. It's actually key. And the best people to network with are the people who you want to become, right? So you're going to try to connect with smart and talented people who are where you want to be in life, or it's people who are going where you want to be, right? So they're like kind of at your level, but they want to reach that same goal that you have. But ideally, you have those two types of people. And most important is people who already are where you want to be, because you're going to learn the most from them. Imagine if you could get access to the engineer who works at your dream company, who has like the top salary that you want to have, works on the coolest projects, who travels around the world. Imagine what having access to someone like that do to you. Imagine having someone like that as a mentor, as a friend. Like what kind of knowledge would you receive if he can give you personalized feedback to help you? Of course, this is going to change your life. So try to network with smart and talented people. Cheat code number 3 is Twitter, or X, however you want to call it. This is the one thing that I regret not doing earlier, honestly, because it's such a powerful tool. X literally is, if you think about it, it's networking at scale. So in cheat code number 2, I mentioned the importance of networking, the value that you can get, and how you can get ahead of most people through that. But if you think about posting online on a platform like X, or actually any other platform, but I'm mentioning this one because there's a high concentration of developers, programmers, managers, like founders who are there. So it gives you the highest level of opportunities. And you know, like when you're networking, the nice thing about it is like it's very personal, but the disadvantage is it takes a lot of time. And how many people can you network with at any given point? Maybe it's like what, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. Then it starts to become very hard to keep track of and create any level of like meaningful relationships. But when you post your stuff online, there is a lot more people who can see than what you even realize. Because something that most people don't think about is, imagine you put like a post, a tweet, and let's say it gets 10 likes. If it gets 10 likes, it means that at least 100 people saw it, but they didn't interact with it. Either they didn't like it, either they were not interested, or maybe they liked it, maybe they were interested, but literally they didn't think about pressing a like button or commenting. Because most people are lazy, most people, I don't know, they want to react to stuff. But it doesn't mean that they don't follow what you're doing. And you might have people who are like CEOs, who are like managers, who are like top engineers at top companies who see your stuff, and you would have no idea that they see it. But it might lead to opportunities. When your account is small, it's not going to matter much. But as you spend time developing, it's going to grow and become more and more important. This is, like I said, this is the one thing that I regret not doing earlier, and I'm starting to get more into it now. Not doing as good of a job as I would want to, but I'm taking it more and more seriously. What I would recommend for you to make it as easy as possible. Because if it's hard, I know like a lot of you guys are not going to do anything. If it's hard, you're not going to do it. So you want to make it easy for yourself. Start with just 10 minutes a day per tweet. So you lock 10 minutes of your day, and anyone can do this. Like, don't tell me that you don't have 10 minutes in your day for this. You lock 10 minutes of your day, find like some specific time when you want to do this, in the morning, afternoon, or evening, and tweet about anything that you have learned today. So if you're learning to code right now, if you're like, I don't know, work on some projects, whatever you're doing, there's probably something that you're learning today that is new, something that you have done. Tweet about it. Tweet about the projects that you work on. You can share like the work in progress. You can share the final results. You can share screenshots, video demos, just anything that is related to something that you're doing. So you don't have to like invent new content and be super creative. Literally things that are part of your day, put that. And do it daily. This is extremely important because you want to build a habit, and that habit is going to compound over time. So this is extremely important. Networking at scale, think about that. Cheat code number 4, start lifting. If you're not doing this already, you have to start doing this. Because the problem is a lot of programmers, like for us, we spend a lot of our time sitting on a chair and like building our mind to become extremely powerful and to write those complex softwares. But the problem here is that if you train your mind to be strong, but if your body is still weak, you're gonna be weak at the end of the day. You need to train your body as well, because a weak body is a weak mind. And if you only train the mind, then let's say even if you become quote unquote successful, you're just gonna be a rich dork. Basically, you're gonna look like this guy. And this is not what we want. What we want is, want to look like this guy here. Top 1%, code bender, someone who is jacked, smart, rich, powerful, confident, he's God-fearing, and he has an iron will. That's who we want to be. And you're not going to reach all of this through just pure coding. Sitting on your chair in your room, not doing anything else besides being on your computer, you're not going to reach this. And the people who are the most successful, they have those traits. This is where you want to be. You know, I made the mistake of sacrificing my lifts, my gains, just for the sake of spending some extra hours, like work on some projects, learning some extra things. And I was like, yeah, actually, if I spend a few more hours like studying for this exam or like work on this project, this is gonna help me. And or if I sacrifice a few hours of sleep, this is actually a very weak mindset. And it leads to overall, if you look at like the full picture, it leads to you having less chances of succeeding at your goals. Sacrificing like one workout because you have an urgent project to accomplish, or like sacrificing some hours of sleep exceptionally, it's completely fine. That's normal, and sometimes you need to do this because you have no other choice. But to have a habit of doing it, it leads to you becoming less efficient over time. You know, your brain is not going to work as well. You want to be as brave. You won't have as much energy to act fast. And down the line, you're going to miss opportunities because of it. So if you're not doing it already, start lifting. Do it at least 3 times a week to start with, and then increase it to as much as you can. Cheat code number 5, plan your days ahead. So this one is kind of crazy, but I plan every single hour of my day. And I've been doing it for the past 8 years. Literally, I'm not joking. Every single hour from morning to evening is planned. Even weekends and even holidays, I still do it. And some simpletons might say like, oh, stop, this is crazy. Like, you need to live life, you need to enjoy, you cannot plan everything. But they're simpletons for a reason. They don't understand that discipline is freedom. When you have control over your days and you're very intentional as to what is the day that you want to have and what do you want to do today, and you do it every single day, you're in full control of your life. Of course, things can always happen. Unexpected things happen, things change along the way, but at least you have a lot of awareness as to how you want your day to go and the types of things that you want to accomplish. Because we live in a world that is so full of distractions that if you don't have a clear plan of what you want, you're gonna fail. It's extremely easy to just be distracted, to be a slave to your phone, social media, like games or whatever it is that distracts you. But if you plan your day, if you take control of your life, if you build that discipline, this is when you're truly free and you choose what you want to have. Cheat code number 6, wake up early. I heard this quote when I was a kid: the world belongs to those who wake up early. And man, this is so true. So true. I struggled with sleep most of my life. Like most of my life, I would go to sleep super late, then I would barely wake up in the morning to go to school, or to go to work even. And I always felt like it was so inefficient. It's as if you're never at 100%. You never know what your true potential is because your batteries are never charged. You always miss the most productive hours of the day, which is the morning, early in the morning. And your day kind of starts a little like chaotic. It doesn't start in the most optimal way. So what I recommend you guys do is try to wake up before 6 in the morning. So this implies that you have to go to sleep earlier. Do the toughest work that you have in the morning. Like use those hours that are the most productive of your day, or the most powerful that you will ever be in a day is the morning. Use it to do your toughest work. But don't just put the toughest work there. Try to also make it fun. Try to think about what is the work that is difficult that you're trying to avoid to do. Put that in the morning, but also try to think about what is something that is fun and exciting. So it's work that is challenging because it's difficult, but it's also exciting. And if you can land it, if you can finish it, it's going to be a big reward just by itself. Because what this is going to do is it's going to make you fall in love with your mornings. The problem that a lot of people have, the reason why we don't want to go to sleep early, to wake up early, is because there is no intrinsic motivation really to do it. Like you're not necessarily in love with your mornings. You don't think at night like, oh man, like I really wish I can go to sleep now to wake up in the morning because I want to do this super exciting thing. You don't think like, and because of it,
you have no like incentive whenever you're lazy to go to sleep early. So if you make it fun, if you start to fall in love with your mornings, this is how you can change this dynamic. This is what I did. Like at one moment in my life, I was so tired of not being able to fix my sleeping routine that I put a challenge on myself to start waking up at 5 in the morning every single day. The thing at first, what happened is I got scared because I was like, man, 5 in the morning is so early that if I don't go to sleep early, I'm going to be dead during the day. And if I have work or stuff like that, I'm not going to be able to code or do anything. So this alone started to push me to go to sleep earlier. But then the other thing I did is I put exciting stuff in the morning. I put like personal projects that I was working on that was like side hustles. And that helped me fall in love with the mornings, and the progress was it became addictive. And I really wanted to wake up in the morning every single day to progress on those projects that I was working on. So this was a big game changer. And that's what I recommend you guys do. It was the most productive period of my life. Honestly, I did this for 1 year. So for 1 year, nearly every single day, I was waking up at 5 a.m. I would wake up, I would pray Fajr, and then I would work on projects. And if you think about it, like most people, they start their work day at like what? Like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. If you wake up at 5, it means that you have 3 to 4 hours before work starts to work on your personal projects, to whatever you want to have. So you have an advantage of at least 3 hours over everyone else. And over time, this is going to compound. Over 1 year, it's like thousands of hours. It's insane, actually, the amount of time that it is. And also, the last thing is 0 distractions in the morning. So you want to really do your deep work. That's why no phone, no nothing in the morning. Don't talk to anyone. Literally just focus on doing that work. And then your day essentially begins after that. And you can like allow those distractions to come in later if it's really important for you. Cheat code number 7, Ikigai. Bro, this one, I love it. I really love this framework. It's a Japanese concept that means a reason for being. So essentially it just helps you figure out what your purpose is. And the framework, if you look at it, is divided in 4 circles. So you have one circle that is what you love. One circle is what you're good at. One circle is what you can get paid for. And one is what the world needs. And if you find something that is at the intersection of all those things for you, this is going to be your purpose. This is going to be the reason why you do everything that you do. If you only have 2 of those elements, it's not as optimized. Because, for example, if you have something that you love and then you're good at it, but you cannot get paid for it and the world doesn't need it, it's just a passion project, right? So, like, I don't know, like you love to draw, you like to be an artist, but you cannot get paid for it and no one needs what you're doing. So it's literally just like a little passion or a hobby or something like that. But ideally, you want to have all 4. Because when you nail all 4, this is perfect. This is your purpose. This is where you should invest most of the time you have and most of your energy into. Because this, once you figure this out, it's going to help you avoid being distracted. Because too many people are distracted nowadays and it's only going to get worse. Like we live in the attention economy and everyone wants to capture attention. That's why having a purpose is extremely important. And the thing that you need to realize is, it's a concept I'll often talk about on this channel. Code is just a tool to achieve your goals. You truly need to have that in your brain and fully internalize this. Code is a tool to achieve your goals. And for a tool to be efficient, to work well, you need to have a purpose. You need to know how to use that tool, right? Like if I have just a screwdriver and I'm just passionate by screwdrivers, and I don't understand that a screwdriver is truly efficient because it's used to build things like assemble furniture or like whatever it is, then like I'm not going to realize my full potential. I'm not going to achieve an enormous amount of success. And this is actually, look, this was me. Before I realized this concept, before I realized that code is just a tool to achieve my goals and I need to use it to get to my end objective, I would struggle a lot learning to code. But when this clicked in me, when I started working on projects and I started to have those high ambitions and I would use code and I would pick up anything on the fly that I need to get to my goals, how can I reach financial freedom and build cool projects? This is when everything shifted in me. All right, now cheat code number 8, it's your career plan. What I want you to do, guys, is I want you to plan your next 3 to 5 years because this is going to give you a direction. It comes back to what we talked about in the previous cheat code about distractions, where so many people are distracted and they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clear plan. They just live day by day without thinking about the future. And this leads to very inefficient decisions that you're making, because if you don't have a clear plan, if you're trying to reach a destination that you don't know even what the destination is, and you're not even using a map, you're just walking in random directions and you keep changing directions, then you're going to waste a lot of your time. It's going to be like winning the lottery for you to reach like a dream outcome for you. But if you plan, if you're very intentional, if you do the other cheat codes you mentioned, so you plan your days, but then you have a career plan, so you have a trajectory of where you're going,
bro, you're gonna be ahead of the majority of people. You're gonna look like this guy, like a super badass coder with this aura of energy around him. Because yeah, like even if this changes also, by the way, like a lot of people, they're afraid because they think, oh, like if I plan this, but then things change, I'm gonna stress out. Don't worry about it. Use that plan as a direction. You're not using it as something like you don't have magical powers to know what the future is. You cannot predict things. You can have assumptions and you can have desires, and based on that, you can make a plan that is like an optimal outcome that you would want. But at the end of the day, it's just a direction. It's just something to give you some guidance. And then you need to be flexible and adapt. But at least you have a direction, which is better than 99% of people who don't have any clear direction. Cheat code number 9, marketing. It's actually one of my favorite ones because nobody does this. Literally, you don't see nearly any developers who think about developing any level of marketing or sales skills. So no one does this except the top 1%. It's like this guy right here. There are two elements actually in marketing when I talk about like developing the skills. One is you want to market yourself. So you want to build a personal brand where people know you, they know your skills, they know that you are kind of like an expert in a certain discipline, and they just like they think about you, they know that you exist, and they have a good opinion of you as someone who knows what they're talking about or who has some expertise in something. So this is number one. You're building a personal brand and you're building a portfolio that people have some respect for. And so that's like you build your socials essentially, like whatever it's like. We mentioned about Twitter, we mentioned about like different platforms. LinkedIn also could work, YouTube could work. That's what I do. But yeah, try to find a platform that fits kind of your goals, but you want to build your personal brand. That's the key there. And the dimension number 2 is marketing your projects. So it's you learn how to market yourself as an individual because you're selling yourself, whatever you want to get, a job, whatever you want to get. Having a personal brand is extremely powerful. But then if you know also how to sell any project that you're doing, how can you get users for apps that you're building, growth hacks to just like make it grow more and generate revenue, is going to be extremely powerful. Because even if you just want to get a job and you have projects like this on your resume that have users, you're going to stand out so much compared to other people. And if you want to get those projects to the next level, if you want to build a company business and start making money, again, those skills, they're going to serve you literally for life. It's extremely, extremely powerful. And a lot of developers, they miss out on that. Because when you have that combo where you know how to build stuff and you know how to sell it, you're literally unstoppable. Now we're moving to cheat code number 10. And don't forget, there is an 11th bonus cheat code at the end. I'm going to mention it after this one. But the number 10th is to build a winner circle. This is extremely, extremely important. This will literally change the trajectory of your life. This is another quote that I heard that really resonated with me, is that you are the average of the people around you. You take around like 5 people that you hang out the most with, you're going to be the average of characteristics that they have and ideas that they have. You can also add actually online now, because you can, like if you consume a lot of content online by some person, for example, or you digest a lot of their content, you read a lot of books about like some specific subject or a specific person, you're going to incorporate a lot of those elements into you, and that's going to influence you a lot. But like to make it simple, it's like the average of your environment is going to shape and determine who you are. So if you want to succeed, if you want to win, you need to surround yourself ideally with people who are beasts, right? Because if you have people like that around you, who are around you the most of the time, then you'll become a beast as well. It's just logical. It's inevitable. If you hang out with people who are extremely good at something, you're going to be better as well, right? Like if you hang out with people who exercise all the time, you're going to start exercising. If you don't know any workouts at all, at least you're going to do better than you were before, because you're all those guys who work out all the time. If you're with people who are super ambitious, they want to build businesses, it's very high likelihood that you're going to become like that. So whatever you want to accomplish, be around people who are like that as well, because this is going to push you forward. You're going to push them and they're going to push you. And it's going to be like this super positive circle. Ideally, you want to build that in person. So you want to have people in person that you meet on a regular cadence every day. That's ideal. Like literally, actually, if you work with them on projects, if it's your best friends, it's ideal. This is what you would want. But I know from experience, maybe a lot of you guys will relate, is it's extremely hard to find those types of people because they might not be around you. Literally, they might not be in your city, or maybe if they are, it's very hard to find them because you cannot speak to everyone there and try to figure out like who is like that, who isn't. So for there, that's when an online community can help. That's why I created this Codebender Discord. It's my Discord server for like this channel. You can join it. DM people there, make an announcement, say like, oh, like I want to build this group, I'm working on this project, who wants to join me, or I have this objective, who wants to join me, and we're gonna make like accountability calls like every like week or something like that. And be kind of proactive, right? But try, like, I'm building this platform trying to help you guys connect, because it's extremely valuable to have this group. And if you cannot have it in person, at least try to have it online. Now we're reaching the bonus cheat code, the last one, the one that I don't see a lot of people talk about. And it's cheat code number 11, obsess over ROI. ROI stands for return on investment. And there's a concept that is very interesting. Only 20% of what most people do gives them 80% of the results. So if you look at your day, for example, your week, your year, what you spend 20% of your time doing is going to give you 80% of the results that you're going to be achieving. And that's a rule that you find in a lot of different industries and a lot of different things. A lot of people, they don't realize that. You might not get those exact percentages, but that fraction is called the Pareto principle. It's very, very famous. And this means that if only 20% of what you do gives you 80% of the result, you need to realize what those things are and you need to double down on it. As you go on your way to the top, you will see that you have a lot of different distractions that appear. And it's not the same distractions I was talking about before. I'm talking about actually things that look productive, but are actually killing you because they don't give you good ROI based on your goals. You always want to choose based on your goals. For example, if your goal is to become financially free, it means that the task that you need to do is not only coding. You need to do a lot more than that. You cannot obsess only on like crafting the best resume and then trying to get raises and then grow in your career and then like go from junior developer to like mid-level to senior to manager and then go all the way in the corporate ladder and then you don't do anything else because you're not going to reach financial freedom that way. You'll always be tied to your job. Even if you're in a good salary, you're always going to be tied to your job. If you want to earn financial freedom, most likely I will say, well, you need to build a business down the line. So you need to learn some business skills, you need to work on some side projects, you need to test some business ideas, or maybe you need to invest your money. You need to invest in the stock market, in real estate, but you need to do things outside of that. And all those things, like if you obsess over your career, your resume and things like that, it looks like productive work, right? It looks like you're doing something productive. But it doesn't give you a good return on investment compared to what you want to have, compared to where you want to be. And that's something that you have to think on a day-to-day level, on a week level, on a year level for your entire career. You need to think when you plan everything, think, is what I'm doing now the best return on investment that I could be doing? Is what I'm doing this week, this month, the goals I have for this year, are they the best return on investment compared to what I could do? And if you get into the habit of thinking like this all the time, it's going to be a big game changer because you're going to become ultra efficient. Those cheat codes are extremely powerful.
Congrats on completing all the modules. If you learned anything from this video, please comment below. It gives me a good indicator that this was valuable for you. Remember, code and AI are just tools to help you reach your goals. Thank you for watching and Assalamu alaikum codebenders.